Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Parkscope Unprofessional oh, damn it. Podcast hour.
Restart.
Yeah, and we're going to back
Restart.
up. Restart, going back. This is staying in the show. Everyone, hello. Welcome to the Parkscope Unprofessional Podcast Hour. My name is Joe. Joining me tonight is Alan. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm alive.
That's a
Doing
good
all right.
thing. That is really good. We just put up your latest episode with your cousin.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was
It's
a good
entertaining
episode.
to talk with them.
Got to talk
Yeah, no,
about,
it wasn't bad.
Got to talk about auditing, gambling, and the water park industry.
Yeah, it's always a good time. Always a good time when you bring up those items.
Yeah, great story about how your cousin was auditing a water park and trying to take photos, and these kids were trying to get him to marry their mom.
I personally like the one where the train derails, thus saving him trying to figure out how to do bumps for an afternoon shift.
Good
So
stories.
were they trying to get him to actually marry the mom, or to marry the mom like a priest would marry two people?
No, like you should date our mom.
That kind of marriage. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife refers to Tom as a bit of a cad, but a very charming cad. So it's not surprising that this sort of thing would happen to him.
Yeah. Also joining us, as you can hear, is Jeff. This is your first time on the podcast. Jeff, how are you doing?
It's my first official time on the podcast, as you know.
Yes. Yeah, because we did one, but it turned out real terrible, and then we just kind of threw it away.
Yeah.
So
Yes. So this is the first actual time that anyone will actually hear me on the podcast. So there's a milestone in Parkscope.
yes. You're also, by the way, you're breaking up a little bit, so just make sure you don't have any thing in the background, and we'll kind of work with you on that. Sound good?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
We
Is
can
that
hear.
good?
We can hear you now.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse my cough. Wow. Woof. Ah, man. Okay, so I guess we'll talk a little bit of news because we got a lot. We're going to talk about our trips mostly. This podcast about we've had 3 really interesting trips, but let's talk some news. So Pandora opened at Disney World. That was a thing. Yay. I guess people are shitting in the hallways of Flight of Passage. Did you see that one?
What is this, China?
Oh,
But
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
right. Yeah, so that happened, and it didn't seem like they ordered enough merchandise, which is good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Yeah,
Hey, you know what? When you're getting underpaid
How many times is that
to
going
work
to happen
theme
before
parks,
they learn not to do that?
I don't know. Maybe, I really don't know. Alan, what were you saying?
I was going to say, when you're underpaid to work at theme parks, which is virtually everybody in Orlando, I don't blame anybody to buy a $50 toy and resell it for $200. That's their deal.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
I'm not.
I really don't care.
I'm not hating on the resellers as much as the resellers who have real jobs and then they just take a rack full of clothing. I remember when Trader Sam's opened at Polynesian, one of the guys took a rack full of the Polynesian shirts of the tiki shirts for Trader Sam's and just bought them all, and they were out for 3 days, so no one can buy one. So
that's easy to deal with. You just wait till they get back in stock and buy one.
yeah, but
it's
I
not-
mean, there's some people who go to Disney World once every long time, I guess. I mean,
I don't know, just wait, It's not like these are limited edition hand numbered shirts. They're just t-shirts.
well,
Disney.
and on that side of things, the limited edition Haunted Mansion tiki mugs, there were people going day after day during the hurricane trying to get those and keeping employees there. And I can name one of them, who I mentioned in the pre-show, who was doing that day after day. But yeah,
Everyone has to have a hustle. Everyone has to have a hustle. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I know some people are they have ethical issues with it, but look, man, it's a theme park.
it's not as
People want to buy stuff and resell it. I'm fine with that.
to
Especially
me,
if they want to resell
yeah.
it for 400% markup to people who are dumb. If you buy a T-shirt for $150 just because it says Disney World on it and it just came out, I don't feel bad for you. I really don't. I don't feel any sort of sadness. I feel that you deserve to be parted with your money at that stage. This was okay. This was good. Even if it goes to a person I don't like, I'm still totally okay with it.
Jeff, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, being a former Disney cast member, I do sympathize with these guests who, all too many of them, are only there for, once ever or once every 5 years or something like that. But no, that reminds me of when I was working at the hotels. All of these, it sucked because the people who got the best rooms were all the regulars and the people who complained and the people who would always come to the front desk at the exact right time to say, hey, I need a pool view room even though I paid for a woods view room and stuff like that. And these people who come to Disney once every 5 years, they're the ones who get stuck with these crappy rooms when they check in at 7 o'clock after a nightmare at the airport. So I sympathize with these people who, they want to come to Disney and they want, they love Haunted Mansions. They want to buy Haunted Mansion stuff, or they love Jungle Cruise. They want to buy the tiki mugs or whatever. So, I get where you're coming from, Alan, because you're coming from the sort of, the fan community, the regular sort of visitor. But, as a former cast member, I saw way too often all of these, very good, very loyal guests just get shafted just because of these regulars who would just stomp on them constantly.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen and that I don't have any feelings about the guest, the regular, normal, average Joe that goes to the park, whoever that is at this point. I don't even know how we define that anymore. But those people, if you just happen to be there on the first day that they roll out Haunted Mansion T-shirts that glow in the dark or whatever, and some dude that weighs 357 and can barely move, he manages to get by you at the gate and hustles his way over there waddling along and scores 20 of them. You know what? There's a lot of stuff that all has to happen in that time frame for you not to get the shirt.
In that case, it's just bad luck, really.
That's all it is.
You didn't know that was going to be the day that the Haunted Mansion tiki mugs came out or whatever. So
right, exactly.
In that case, it's just bad luck. I just hate that, sometimes people just abuse it constantly. And these people who legitimately, you shouldn't have to look at, 500 pages worth of guidebooks and 500 different websites to enjoy yourself at Disney World. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. It's too regimented to begin with, but that's a whole long other discussion, isn't it?
Yes, that's a very long other discussion.
Anyways, enough about reselling merch.
Yeah.
Which,
Anyways, Avatar opened. I guess. Yeah. I guess it's the best darn theater simulator of all time. Which, wow, that's big time talk.
Right. Yeah, a lot of competition there.
Yeah,
it's a heavy duty battle between it and let's see,
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Which
Search of the Obelisk and Crescendo and Funhouse.
Funhouse.
Days of Thunder. There was the Days of Thunder one.
James Bond.
Yeah.
The Right Stuff. There was
License to Thrill.
4D. Who can ever forget RoboCop 4D?
SpongeBob.
Aside from everybody, but
SpongeBob 4D.
Yeah, there's another classic. Good Lord.
The K1 journey they had at Sahara's in Las Vegas.
Oh God, what was the one that was at? I actually just wrote about this because the hidden amusements and attractions of Nevada will be coming out next week. There was the one Race for Atlantis. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Caesar's Palace. That was Race for Atlantis.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that those rides are all inherently bad, but most of them are pretty mediocre. And, it might be the best of all time of what it does. I'm not going to say it isn't, but even if it's twice as good as the next best one, I have a hard time believing it's going to be my favorite ride in that park, which is, it has 7 rides to begin with. So it's not really a huge uphill climb to try and beat.
Yeah, I have a hard time putting simulators on the top of my list. Just one of those things. Just I'm in an enclosed space. I'm not really going anywhere. It's fun, but it doesn't have that extra sort of added element of, theme park rides, actually take you somewhere physically. It's part of the charm, part of the Fantasyland sort of Snow White adventure, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride kind of charm.
It could be that I'm totally wrong and it's great, but it's wow, it's so immersive. But if you just turn your head to the right, if you just do that, it's all over. Then you're oh, I'm on the ride.
Yeah, well, it was the same thing with Back to the Future, which I love doing that, by the way. Is just looking to the side and seeing like 5 other DeLoreans, just like these people screaming next to you, and you're like, ah.
Yeah. So, and then also there's Flight of Passage open, and then the Navi River Journey, which sounds like the opening, like Act 1 of an attraction, and then it just ends.
Yeah, I was so disappointed that they didn't. And Alan, I've been talking to Joe about this a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm really disappointed that they did not take the river journey actually through the physical land, even if it's enclosed. Like actually weave it through like some of the pathways so that guests can sort of walk overhead, so you can actually feel like you're traveling somewhere.
My first thought in response to that is, so I guess that Dutch Wonderland in Lancaster, Pennsylvania did a better job of rigging together a boat ride, because they do that. Number 2, which I was going to reply with, is that as far as drug dark rides go, admittedly I never got on either one thus far. One of them never will, but the one that was at Hard Rock Park, Nights in White Satin.
I still don't forgive my dad for not taking me to that park the first year it opened.
The first and only.
Well, no, because we were living in North South Carolina at that point,
yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, we'll go next year. It'll be open."
No. Yeah, I was told, there were people that I knew that went there like the second week, and they were like, "Alan, you need to come immediately." And I'm like, I just moved. I can't go. And they're like, "No, you don't understand. Like, you need to get here soon. This is not going to work." But that ride, as far as like drug dark rides, like Nights in White Satin was definitely the tops. This is like a higher budget version. Yeah, unintended. with like a multi-armed shaman at the end of it or whatever. And I mean, I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm not saying it's terrible, but it lacks the finesse of Nights in White Satin as far as like full tilt drug-induced dark rides go. And then of course Pooh comes in like a solid 3rd place.
Talking Pooh's Honey Hunt?
Yeah.
So Alan, speaking of Dutch Wonderland, do they still have Sky Princess?
It got its name changed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not
right?
it hasn't been Sky Princess in a couple years.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's still there. It was always good. I mean, decent.
Well, that was the first CCI coaster, wasn't it?
That was, yeah. Yeah, it's a decent little on back. It's Kingdom Coaster now. I think probably the whole like Sky Princess was considered, a little unintimidating for men or young boys.
They're just going to change it to like a one title
thing going on.
Right. I think the only way they could have made it better is if they would have had everyone wear dresses.
Oh yeah, like a big flowing like Victorian gown. Oh, that was has single lap bars. I love that ride.
You can't ride this until you put on this pink dress. I mean, it's just part of the package.
Dutch Wonderland for a kiddie park that costs like $54 to get into is freaking great. It's like the best $54 kiddie land that ever existed. It has a monorail. I mean, come on. Like a big monorail that's way oversized for that place. Anyways, let's continue. What were we talking about?
We're
about
talking
Avatar.
Avatar.
Yeah, it opened, so that's good. It looks like, as far as the pictures I've seen, it looks kind of like a cul-de-sac in a jungle.
Yeah.
And but that's okay. You get to rub off this concrete plant. So
but they have glowing rock candy.
Oh well. I'm immersed.
But man,
yeah, right?
But dude, they totally have gummy worms there. I mean, it's clearly the best.
Yeah. We're being way too negative. Let's move on to Volcano Bay.
Wouldn't that convince you to pay $500 a night for Animal Kingdom Lodge?
I just, as soon as I move about 40 kilos of Coke, and I can afford purchasing that room, we'll be all about it. No, I'm good. I'm good for right now on that. Actually, I'll get there. It'll happen. Just no rush. We should talk about Volcano Bay though. We're being overly negative. This is no good.
Well, I mean, Volcano Bay may not be any better, but
but at least then people will be like, oh, well, no one's actually going to be like, oh, they're being even-handed in their criticism. But it's nice that we can point out even-handed criticism that Volcano Bay probably should have soft opened like a lot.
You don't say. Maybe,
I don't know. Maybe
is that a thing now? Do people do that?
I've heard rumors to that extent.
So
remember when DCA like soft opened for like 2 months before it actually opened?
Yeah.
Might have been more than that. Might have been like 6 months. It was like a long time.
I think it was 2 months. Because I remember my friend went in December or something crazy like that. And it was like opening in February. So
Yeah, I think it did open in December, soft opening, from what I can remember, but that's really digging back deep.
Yeah, it's just a scant like 17 years ago. No big deal. 16, 17 years ago. It's, you know what? They have the new Accesso bands, and yeah, so it has Accesso bands, and there's water slides, and sometimes they work. So that's...
So let's go over the mess that is Volcano Bay right now. So
yeah,
right now, not all the cabanas were finished. So they had to cancel the cabanas on people.
Oh, geez.
So now you cannot buy a cabana. You cannot buy a cabana beforehand. You have to buy it the day of. They don't sell cabanas anymore. The Express Pass at Volcano Bay is now officially dead. They are no longer selling Express Passes ever. That's what I've been told.
Well, that was that sort of blew up on them pretty quickly.
The Access Pass, Tapu Tapu, or Crapu Crapu, as I told Jonathan Green. Jonathan Green from Inside Universal. So he's like, "So how's Volcano Bay doing this morning?" And I just texted him Crapu Crapu, and he's like, "Yeah." The bands crash. The bands don't show the time, which is real weird. And also, they are falling off in the Action River, so they had to put on a little yellow band, like a little rubber band, on them to hold them on. Because the Action...
that is so ghetto.
Because the Action River is not even at full strength, and people are losing their Tapu Tapus in the Action River. The water slides, now, in all fairness, the conveyors are breaking down because one of the big things that they're selling this on is that, hey, you don't have to carry inner tubes anymore, which is super cool, but the conveyors are breaking down, which, if they tested it, they could have found these issues out more. So the conveyors are breaking down. I'm also wouldn't be surprised if some of the sensors are having issues. Because instead of the normal water park thing where, you got some dude looking over the side of, the station platform and making sure, like, that one chick passes that corner, then they send someone down, they just use, basically standard theme park sensors just to track people going by, and those are breaking constantly. So that's causing issues. The giant blue one that rides up on the wall, like, late in, park development, they realized it was coming way too dangerously close to the edge of the wall, so they had to extend the water slide like a week before opening. What else is happening? All the landscaping's not installed, all of the interactive elements are not installed, all the theming's not installed.
Who designed this?
Universal Creative.
Yeah.
What else? What else was there on there? There's a few more issues I remember. The food I hear is good and ready to go. The drinks are good and ready to go. It's just an absolute mess. And the slides go down. Oh, and the big thing is they are programming for the ride reservation system is not good in the way that they're working on the programming for it and trying to get those ratios down. Because people waiting 6 hours for a body slide is kind of stupid. And they realize that. Oh, and the last one. Turns out ProSlide has never installed one of the trapdoor slides. You know which ones I'm talking about, where you get in the capsule and there's the trapdoor. They've never installed one of that size before. So they are now realizing they need to reduce the body weight of the people riding those slides until they make modifications from 300 pounds to 200 pounds.
Oh, no.
May I remind you that 200 pounds, even with non-obese people, is not that much.
No, it's not.
Like, in college, yeah, sure, I was like 140 or so, but, like, you could, like, be 6 foot and be, pretty athletic and probably be really close to 200. Like, maybe, like, 185.
No, I mean one meal from Cowfish, and you're going to be 200.
Go to Toothsome, and you're
Yeah,
250.
at 5'11" and a monstrous, roughly 220 right now. I guess I'd be doing the walk of shame from a body slide, which always encouraging when you spend $67 to get into a water park.
Yeah,
to
right.
not be able to go on a body slide.
Well,
Yeah,
at least the good news. The good news is the water coaster sounds like it's really, 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 really good.
You know what? They needed a water coaster that wasn't mediocre in Orlando for a long time.
Yep.
I mean, it's always been kind of shameful that Orlando, like, oh wow, they have the biggest water parks, in the world in terms of attendance for the most. Well, they used to.
Yeah.
Past tense, because Chimlong in China has now taken the number one spot. Mm-hmm. That makes me smile. I don't know why. It just does. Anyways, they never really had a whole lot of really good modern coasters. Like Aquatica brought a couple, but in terms of like newer water slide types. But now that they actually have like a real water coaster, it's like, wow, you joined 21st century. Good work.
Things that that Pro Slide's actually proud to see, like proud to like advertise, not just like, oh yeah, we have these slides. So, like, there's an expansion pad that reportedly, once they're done with the main work at Volcano Bay, they're actually going to start working on the expansion pad for next year. And I haven't heard what it's going to be, but I can only imagine it's probably going to be one of those crazy mammoth water coasters, like at Holiday World.
That'd be great. It's a good ride.
I think it'd be great. I'm just...
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
To tie into our discussion on our park trips in a little bit, I'm slightly disappointed Vekoma is no longer making their water soaker coasters, roller soaker coasters, because I think
that was such a bummer.
That would have been a great addition if they actually got capacity up, which I think Universal could have done compared to Hersheypark, but that's another discussion for maybe about an hour from now.
They still kind of do. They have. There's the one at Yaz Water World.
How does the one at Yaz work? Does it run well? Because I just remember the Hershey one loading like molasses.
Well, so the one that was at Hershey wasn't Vekoma. It was Set Point.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Guaranteed.
I thought it was Vekoma.
Yeah. So Vekoma built the one at Yaz, and the one at Yaz is like pretty decent. It's basically got the junior style train, except it's got a much smaller train. It's only got like 2 cars on it. Mm-hmm. So it seats 4 at a time. Capacity's not that high, but the station queue is really well themed. The actual water dumping function is kind of lousy. It goes over, I'm assuming, a PLC towards the end of the ride, and then that triggers your ability to dump the water on one very specific part of the queue line. But unless you're there on a really hot day or on a Friday, because everything in Abu Dhabi and in the Emirates works where like Friday is super busy because that's Saturday for them. Like there will be nobody there to dump the water on. So like when we would press the button, like it would just like dump on concrete, and you were like, oh, okay, I guess we did that.
Damn it! Yeah, you're Alan. You're right. Set Point in Utah made the roller soaker at Hersheypark. They also made Pterodon flyers at Islands of Adventure.
Yes, yeah. Set Point made a whole lot of really bad rides.
Yeah, I think
they did one at Carrowinds, which nobody remembers. And there's
they must
also
have taken it out.
Yeah, it's been gone for a while. For some reason, Paramount was really into buying these like awful low capacity suspended coasters. Like Kings Island had one. Was it like Scooby's Ghoster Coaster? And it had legit like maybe 80 people an hour.
Oh, you know what? No, you're talking about the suspended ones?
Yeah, like the Set Point one wasn't a Set Point that was at that park, but it was a Bat Flyer. What the hell was it?
Well, I think Carrowinds probably still has theirs because they have, what's it called? The Red Baron's airplane race or something.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a different ride. It's a totally different ride.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. No, it's the Bat Flyers who were they? I have to look it up because I'm like, who built it? This is so bad. When you go on like the website for it, like there's one that was at Lightwater Valley. And it doesn't even tell you who built it. Like that's how hideous those rides were.
Imagine. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was one. Let me see who built it at Emerald Point. Emerald Point, Wet n Wild Emerald Point. There's a Carry Pro. Carry Pro also built these rides, and they were pretty bad. The one that was at Wet n Wild literally operated for like 30 minutes. Like it was It says that it operated from 2001 to 2003, but I've heard like it was operating for maybe 2 months.
But imagine how cool though one of those water coasters would be if you if it just went around the park like a people mover, and you had actually in the cars you had a water gun just like everyone down below did, so you can actually literally target people as you're riding, and they just set these cannons just throughout the entire park, so you can shoot back at these the water coaster. I mean, that would be so cool.
It'd be like the coaster version of a Max Splash battle, and I'm totally pro that. Totally pro that. The only thing is I would be like the nasty guy that tries to spray small children and stuff like that from my elevated perch.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's part of the point. I mean, it's the same thing with the River Rapids rides and the chutes that have the water cannons where you put in a quarter and you dump water on people. You always aim for the women and children up front.
So what were we saying? Yeah, so Volcano Bay has not worked out well thus far.
No,
but it might eventually.
So what I'm hearing right now is that they're working on the programming for the slides. They're working on installing more theming and everything. They're working on the Tapu Tapu system still. They are still running at reduced capacity for the park. They have a bunch of 1-star reviews on TripAdvisor, which a bunch of Universal trolls / haters / Mark Deba is kind of loving right now, which to me doesn't say much because, I mean, come on. But, the park's a major issue right now, but I'm not surprised in a way. But, yeah, it just seems really bizarre when you have when there's so many good openings have happened, and then you just have something where it just completely whiffs. Similar to how Universal Studios Florida opened for the first time. It just completely lost it makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was this bad. Like, is this just a case of Universal Creative just not used to operating a water park?
I think
they've had one for how many years?
Well, Wet and Wild.
Well,
but
right, but I mean actually building a Typhoon Lagoon type of super water park.
Where they were like, okay, we'll show these guys what we know, but they don't know. I think it's.
Oh, and how much?
Oh, sorry, Alan.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not like there aren't a bunch of theme amusement people that have built super gigantic, well done water parks since Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. There's a bunch of them.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what confuses me is why it's the same people, So why? Oh, and by the way, how much of it actually got based off of Lava Lagoon at the end?
It sounds like it was just a kind of a general concept, and it's been morphed a bit. And it doesn't sound like Terry Ku's necessarily on the project as much as he's kind of started up maybe the original concept for it. Because I think they had one of the guys who was doing God, what's his name? I forget his name off the top of my head. One of the guys who was doing all the Springfield stuff was working on this. Not Mike West, because he went to Kong, but yeah, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just really bizarre. It's really weird. I mean, I have confidence that 6 months from now, people are going to be loving this place, but man, it was rough, real rough. But yeah.
If it's good in 10 years, no one will remember this.
Well, it's going to be over. It's going to, but people are like, hey, it looks like shit now, and they're showing the nearly 30-year-old. The nearly 25-year-old Typhoon Lagoon fully grown in to the just planted palm trees of Volcano Bay. It's you want to give him some time, guys?
Well, remember, kids, California Adventure sucked for 10 years, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, I think get 1 or 2 more rides in there for capacity, improve these things, make some changes. I think things will get better, but I don't know right now. It's just not done yet. I can't make a final assessment, and I haven't been there, so I can't say too much.
Yeah, it's going to take time, and it's time that they should have spent not having it fully open, with a full price and not basically charging people to beta test. Yeah, that's my personal take on it.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. One of the interesting things though that I heard was because they know they were running behind schedule, they were running private tests with Universal employees. They were doing basically Tapu Tapu experiments with Universal employees for like days at a time, where they would just get like people who would sign NDAs and they would just wear a tapu and scan and wait and scan and wait. Just wait in line and like do like pretend like they're actually doing capacity and stuff. And yeah, just to give you a little behind the scenes glimpse of how that worked. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine being paid for a day to wear a tapu, scan it, sit around, be told that your time's not ready, and then wait in line, and they just let people in and they simulate actual capacity and breakdowns.
It's like the Looney Tunes basketball practice for that basketball game in Space Jam.
Pretty much. So anyway, let's move on from Volcano Bay. We still want to stay at Universal because last night, as some of us started seeing on Twitter, we started seeing weird things popping up in parking lots in Japan. They made the groundbreaking announcement for Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan in Osaka. Basically, it was the most awkward thing in the world. There were no screens. Make sure you remember that. There are no screens in that presentation. It's all practical.
No screens were used in the making of this movie.
Which could have been really easy, but they just did practical stuff the whole time, even though it looked really weird. So Mario popped out of a pipe, and then he kind of like ran into the middle of a frame, and he was like, "Here we go!" And then like the background was like one of those like 20s like Dudley Do-Right like spinning kind of things. So like the printed image would go by, and there would be like these fake ass Goombas would like go by on like a people mover kind of track thing, and he would try to jump on them, and like these fake ring and like the blocks would go by, and he would fake hit them, and then the coins would pop out, and then all of a sudden at the end the Universal logo showed up, and he just pointed at stage right, and then all of a sudden Mike Woodbury and then the general manager or vice president of Universal Studios Japan, whose names I'm forgetting right now, and then Shigeru Miyamoto came out, and it was like, "We're here now," and they kind of gave it. Yeah,
Bob Hoskins jumped out of a cake.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins was there.
I like them pumping their fists and then like a whole bunch of confetti blows up.
Yeah, Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, was there. No, he actually wasn't. But excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm laughing too much right now.
Tuberculosis.
It was
tragedy.
Yeah. It was really weird because then they all gave these weird speeches in Mario gloves and Mario hats. They were really only missing the mustaches, the fake mustaches, to really make it like completely like surreal. And then in the end,
I think they crossed the line somewhere back there.
Yeah. So eventually they all, as Alan said, they all gave a fist pump, and then the like one question mark block behind Mario started shooting confetti, and they started playing the Invincibility Star music, and there's just a shit ton of confetti everywhere and fireworks. So
I don't think there was any crowd noise either. Like there was no crowd assembled.
It was just for the media, which is very, very Japanese. So Japanese. It's not even funny. Like this was just like the people who were there were literally Famitsu, the local Japanese newspapers and TV stations, and no crowd whatsoever. It was no public was invited. It was just these very proper Japanese business people for them to see Mario pop out of a warp pipe, fake run, these guys in suits give a fist pump, and then confetti everywhere.
It's like the star music starts playing, and you see the parking lot tram driving through with Goombas just bouncing off of it.
That'd be perfect. But yeah, it was really weird, but Nintendo. And they had a ad that they debuted, which looks pretty legit. And I gotta say, I've already seen more stuff about Super Nintendo World today than I have all the Pandora stuff over the past like month. So
yeah, for real.
Take it for what's worth. Alan, anything else you want to add to that?
Let me know when people know what the rides are. Or like when we see pictures.
Okay.
Like we know what the rides are kind of, but
yeah.
Like when I see rides and I see what we're getting, I'll care a lot more. It's not like we know it's coming. We knew it was there. We knew it's going to be open before, was it 2020 for... Do they have the Olympics in 2020? What do they have in
They're
2020?
opening early 2020 in Japan.
Yeah, but there's a specific reason. Like, there's
they
either a
have
World Expo
Summer
there or the
Olympics.
Olympics. Okay, yeah.
Summer
Well,
Olympics
then-
2020, so that's why they want to open it early.
Yeah,
Well-
but I mean, it's easy to say you're going to have rides in Star Wars Land, but it's another thing to actually see what they're going to be.
Yeah, because I mean, you can say you're going to have the Gringotts, roller coaster until you show the concept art and you just see all this crazy stuff, or, yeah, I totally understand.
I hope it's 10 B&M hypers. No, I don't know what it is.
Well, that's
It'll be rides, man.
that's for Lane.
As long as
we
it's more
call-
than like one or
we're-
two rides, and there's some more meat to it. Because that's the one thing I've noticed about avatars. There's not really a lot to explore necessarily, and especially for that park, which is a park where there's a lot of these big long pathways with animal enclosures and stuff like that, and there's a lot of exploration that takes place. Or Disney Paris. When you look at the Avatar videos and pictures, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Alan, I'm sure the B&M Hyper is going to be called Super Pilot Wings.
Yeah, see, there we go. Now we're working. They could have another flying coaster, 2 B&M flying coasters, same park.
Damn.
Let's do it. Let's go, guys.
We could do that.
Dueling B&M flying coasters.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah. So
The crowds demand it.
I did a small article on Parkscope today because I was like, I hate everything I've read today about this. So I'm like, I'm going to write something. So I wrote something. Basically, Osaka's going to have 2 rides. They're going to have Mario Kart, which is going to be an all-practical kart racer. I think it's going to be slot-based like Test Track, but it's going to have a drifting mechanism, so the back of your car is going to drift out, sort of like how Test Track originally was supposed to, if you remember that, Jeff.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, and you're going to be racing. So imagine like Radiator Springs Racers, but instead of like two cars, it's going to be like 4 or 6 cars, and then there's going to be multiple.
Woohoo!
There's going to be multiple floors, from what I heard, with multiple levels. So you're going to get like Mario Circuit and Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road. So that's Mario Kart. The other ride is some sort of Yoshi themed Omnimover ride. And it's supposed to be let me put it this way, the ride vehicles are supposed to be very, very, very high tech. And I'll just leave it at that. Wink.
Will you actually get to shoot Yoshi's tongue out of the vehicle?
That would be amazing. I'd be game for that. Like seriously, like if they made
Imagine that interactive experience.
Yeah, right? That'd be badass. I don't know.
I'm ready for Antarctica Part 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Pumped.
Yeah. You're gonna follow this one newborn Yoshi as they explore the Antarctic. Anyway, so that's Osaka, and I believe Orlando's getting those 2 rides and also the Donkey Kong coaster, which is that
Right.
weird coaster that's on that articulating arm, so it looks like you're actually riding on something that you're not riding on, if that makes sense. So they can do those
Yes.
crazy jumps from the excuse me, tuberculosis skin, from the video game. So yeah, anyway, Nintendo.
That is so cool, by the way.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
going to complain until I get the Ken Griffey Jr. experience.
Well, I
So I
mean,
can relive my SNES games.
well, let's be honest. There's plenty of people complaining already. They're like, "Where's my Star Fox ride? When's Metroid coming? Is Animal Crossing going to be there? What about Pokemon?" Like it's like balloon fight. It's like what balloon fight? It's like Kid Icarus. Shut up. So I mean,
A Super Monkey Ball.
that's
Is
Sega.
Wario a libertarian? The greatest thread in the history of forums, locked after 12,000 pages of heated debate. No, I don't know. It's Mario. Maybe like what was it, Dr. Mario? Where's my Dr. Mario attraction?
There we go.
What's going on, guys?
I feel like that would be a good restaurant, Dr. Mario. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
I don't think it would actually.
Okay.
I'm not too key about that.
So, friend.
Maybe if it goes.
Oh,
if it
you know
goes
what?
to
You know what?
California,
You know
or
what
maybe-
they should
maybe
do?
if we
Oh,
get to
they should.
legalization-
Alan
Oh.
first. Alan.
Yeah. Maybe if we get to legalization,
Yeah.
then it could be like a dispensary. I'm just saying.
Okay. So you mean uppers and downers, big mushrooms, little mushrooms?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like pills that have all sorts of various effects.
Okay.
You know? I'm
Okay.
all for that.
Anyway, Jeff.
Yeah, continue.
No, they should. So the main restaurant for Super Nintendo World should totally be like Sim Restaurant, where you actually play a Sims character and you actually get to control your restaurant experience.
Well, it would be a me, not a Sims, because the Sims is EA.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, damn.
It'd just be a me. Yeah, there you go. Think about that.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
there
like,
you go.
Yeah, me restaurant where you get to customize your own restaurant experience and you get to customize your own food and everything.
Yeah, I was talking about food, and like, have you seen like Japan's food has been kind of crazy with like kind of the stuff they do? So I think they may invent some really cool stuff out there, and then I hope they bring it over here. So
Like strawberry cheesecake Hershey Kit Kats.
yes, exactly. Well, we're gonna get to that in a second, Jeff. But anyway, I think
Num num.
so.
I will chain myself to all the fire hydrants until I get a Pikmin ride
Oh yes, Pikmin. Yes, fuck yes, Pikmin.
and Excite Bike.
Pikmin, Excite Bike. What else? I mean, Pokemon.
Kirby. Don't forget
Kirby.
Kirby.
Luigi's Mansion.
Kirby. I heard they were supposed to do a Kirby Land, like miniature land, but that got cut. Especially
Super
since
Monkey Ball, the attraction. Come on.
that was Sega. Sorry.
Oh, Sega?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Sega.
Jesus.
So Kirby, I heard, was supposed to be like a little kids land area, maybe. Maybe they'll build that in like phase 2 or whatever. But the main reason why they were focused on Kirby was because the late CEO of Nintendo, God, what was his name? Shigeru Iwata was the founder of Kirby. So like they kind of want to do that as a memorial for him. So I don't know. I think that's still on the cards somewhere.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Anyway, Nintendo, it's happening. It's coming soon. It's going to be super cool. I'm super excited. Personally, I think this is going to be the new Potter just because it's just an untapped market so far, if that makes sense. In that,
but like Potter, it's going to be execution dependent. So
Yeah.
I'm holding my opinion about that.
yeah, which is fine. Again, excuse my coughs. There's like a certain amount of people who think like, oh my god, Star Wars is absolutely going to destroy everything in the parks. And I'm sort of like, it's going to be very popular. But we've had 30 years of Star Wars in theme parks. It's not like this is some sort of crazy new thing that just popped up that is opening this whole new untapped market.
Right. That was Star Tours back in the day.
Yeah. And like we've had Star Wars weekends, we've had the Star Wars celebrations, we've had like Hollywood Studios has done how many Star Wars things in the past 3 years. It's going to be huge, but I don't think it's going to open up the market like Nintendo is going to open up the market. So
I don't know how
plus,
they could even open up the market anyways. Like, it's pretty much full.
How so? Like how do you?
Well, yeah,
Don't
that's
they
what I was
claim
saying.
like they have like 90% occupancy? I mean,
Well,
what more are they going to do?
you mean Disney or Universal?
Disney.
Well, I mean, there's clearly Disney fans who just think that anything Disney opens will clearly bring everyone and anyone who's ever existed on the planet to this park.
Well, yeah, and then there's reasonable people, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Well, yeah, there's reasonable people who are like, Disney fans will really like this, but it won't do anything.
Right.
And today's my conversation I had today, which was basically some Disney fan was like, I may watch Avatar now. And it's like, wow, congratulations, Disney. You spent $700 million on this land. And one Disney fan may consider giving money to Fox to watch this movie.
to watch the most popular film, the most money-making film of all time.
It's
no
like
less.
slow clap.
What a brave move. Yeah. Anyways, no, I don't know that Nintendo has the possibility to do that because there's not really, as far as video game attractions in America, we're pretty much limited to a couple of EA things, which we'll get to talk about in a little bit at the Cedar Fair Park.
Thankfully,
there's really not much beyond that.
I think there's a Rabbids attraction in Europe somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other stuff. I'm going to be riding, assuming that the whole Middle East doesn't descend into chaos. Trackless Resident Evil Dark Ride pretty soonish. So
Ooh, there is one of those? Oh.
Yeah, it's in Dubai. There's a new indoor park there. It has no coasters. But
of course it's an indoor park,
Yeah. Well, yeah, almost everything has to be there. I mean, if you're outdoor, like Dubai Parks is, you're pretty much doomed, which they probably are. But
it's a Salvador Dali park. Everything's melting.
Yeah, we'll get into that in December when I get back home, if I go.
Yeah, if the world hasn't descended into chaos due to whatever reason, because let's be honest, the past 3 months have sort of been like 5 years now. So
yeah, it's been interesting.
It has felt like 5 years. Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Yeah.
by the way, I know this is going to be like timed for a different time, but we're currently recording this while Corbyn is apparently just romping all over the UK. And
is that good or
that's
bad?
No, it's good.
It's good?
Because Theresa May is not.
Oh, she's
not
the
who
one
you
who's
want.
like, we're going to take civil liberties away.
Yeah,
Make sure
exactly.
terrorism doesn't happen.
And-
Okay, so that's a good thing. Okay, good.
Yeah, this is a good thing.
Okay, good. Phew. Yeah, sorry, I don't know my international politics. So when I go to England to drink with like English soccer fans, I'm just going to be shut up and listen and sing songs and not be like, yeah, those Labour Party with a U. So okay. Anyway,
I'm your source for geopolitics, death metal, boxing, and also roller coaster information. That's what I do.
there we go. Ah, man. So one last news item in our really quick, totally quick, we swear it only took us 50 minutes to get here, news segment. We got a teaser for Mean Streak 2.0.
Ooh,
So what are your guys' thoughts?
It's going to be good.
I mean, I've been on Twisted Colossus, and that was pretty huge. But Mean Streak is an absolute beast. I mean, that was like, had it been built like 6 or 7 years earlier, it would have been like the highest roller coaster or the tallest roller coaster in the world. Like this is immense what they're doing with Mean Streak.
Alan?
It's too raw for y'all. The situation.
I think
It's too
so.
good.
So one of the weird things, like in the preview video, they were talking about, like, they made it plural. So is it going to be like dueling or what?
Somebody came up with that rumor a while back, I think on TPR's forums, and no one I know actually thinks it's going to be dueling at all.
Okay.
So I would just kind of ignore that for now.
Okay.
I think they're just that part they're kind of messing with people, but no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic. Oh man,
So, as many people know, this past spring I went to Kings Island for their Mystic Timbers raise money, ride the coaster early event situation. That happened. If they do that at Cedar Point, I am so over that you have no idea, because I rode Mystic Timbers 8 times in 2 hours, and if they do that with Mean Streak 2.0, I'm there like it's nobody's business. So, yeah, I cannot wait for this ride. This is probably my most anticipated ride of 2018 right now. It's going to be nuts. But also, like, we're getting a new hurler at King's Dominion in 2018.
yeah, we are. They've kind of. Well, they haven't really announced that, but it's pretty obvious.
I mean,
that
when you have Rocky Mountain Construction vehicles on property taking apart a coaster, it's probably going to be RMC'd. So
Yeah, good odds.
yeah, Hurler and Mean Streak 2.0. That's kind of insane when you really think about it. Like Cedar Point,
And then Kennywood's getting
yes,
which is everybody says it's an RMC. I don't know if
Really?
it's actually true, but
No.
that's what I.
no. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
that'd be
it
great.
better fucking not.
I mean, do you guys know? Have you guys seen the blueprints for it?
I've seen the blueprints for it. Isn't that towards the river, like near where?
It's kind of like behind Racer.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically just like goes straight down into the ravine.
okay.
And there's one part that's not the station that has this like really tight U curve. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, what on earth is that? Like the only thing that anyone can come up with is that it's probably a top hat inversion. Or
Okay.
it could be just a non-inverting top hat like what's on Dragster. But
So it's by the racer area, because when I was
Yeah.
looking at it, I was imagining it closer to where the train's at, like in that middle area of the park.
yeah, if you look at it from the map, it's kind of, there's like a maintenance shed building that's back there that they're going to be getting rid of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be all back there. And I've heard some people, I think at one point said it might be Premier, but Premier just built Skyrocket, which we'll talk about. And then
Great ride.
but I'm pretty sure it's going to be, at least from what I know, it's going to be RMCs is what it seems like. Yeah, so if you go on Google Maps, and anybody out there that's listening to this can do the same. If you basically go and you look at where the Racer is and Logjammer and Jackrabbit, picture the coaster kind of falling somewhere in between Jackrabbit and Racer and going into the woods. And that big covered building that's behind the woods, that belongs to Kennywood. That's going to be taken down, and that's going to be part of the coaster area as well.
Huh. So I have it open right now, and I see exactly what you're talking about right now. So that giant shed area. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Huh.
Yeah, that's going to be gone, and they're gonna move around their maintenance stuff, which fine.
Do you think so? Do you think they're gonna remove some of that? Because I think between Jackrabbit and Racer is where they have like their face painting / arcade whatever stuff. So you think they're gonna move that and make that like a new midway area or something?
Yeah, that would be my guess. I mean, because whatever the giant thing is that looks like it's probably a top hat, but nobody can tell for sure, basically runs like parallel to that. So it's going to be like right in front of it. Wow.
That's going to be insane.
Yeah, it looks like there's basically just like maintenance stuff back there and games buildings and backstage. So not really losing anything. If you turn on the 3D, you can see where the depth is in terms of that sort of chasm. Like if you just look at the bridge, especially on the 3D, you're like, oh, there's a drop. There's a lot happening there. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting to see what it is. Yeah.
Jeff, any thoughts on Kennywood 2018?
No, I don't really know too much about it. So, when we find out more information, but as long as it's something new, I'm all for it.
Nice. All right, so I guess we should start talking about our trips. So, Alan, I have you up first. So, do you want to talk about your trip first?
I'm up first. I mean, I guess I actually did 2 trips.
Talk about both trips.
I'll talk about both trips. I might as well. So, let's see. I went to New England for Memorial Day weekend. I used to live in New England for a long time, and I used to work at Lake Compounce, which is the first park we stopped at. Mostly it was to like visit family, but also it's like, well, what are you going to do aside from visit family, or while you're visiting family? Like, go to parks. Like, they know that's what we do. Like, there's no surprises in that. So we did Compounce first. Compounce is in Bristol, Connecticut. / Southington, Connecticut. It's kind of in a strange spot where it's on the border of the 2 towns. It's got a lake, as the name implies. It's the oldest operating amusement park in the United States. It's just went ahead and I think it was our 170th year of operation. It's owned by Palace Entertainment, which is a subsidiary of Parque Reunidos. So they used to be owned by Kennywood, as a matter of fact, before Kennywood sold all of their stuff off.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Kennywood sort of has this, or Lake Compounce has this weird history prior to that, where in order to keep the claim of being the oldest operating amusement park in the United States, they were being operated only for 1 weekend a year for like 2 or 3 years by the city of Bristol, Connecticut. And then prior to that, they were actually owned by Hershey, which not a lot of people know about. And Hershey actually built a stage, and one of the most famous aspects or things that ever happened at Lake Compounce was the infamous Milli Vanilli show, where the tape got stuck, which is now actually the location of the Zoomerang roller coaster. So anyways, we went there. It's a nice park. For being the oldest park in the country, opening in 1846. I had to pull up the wiki for that one. I can't remember that one offhand. It doesn't really have a lot of classic attractions, per se. There's Rocco Bish Flyers in the back corner. That's about it. There's a good carousel that they have. And really, for the most part, the Wildcat Wooden Roller Coaster, which is their oldest ride as far as the coasters go, and probably the oldest ride, period, at the park, that's being heavily retracked and redone right now by GCI. It's getting new trains. It's still not open yet. And hopefully it opens sometime soon. Jerry Brick, the GM, who I did a podcast with and will be up in a couple weeks on the website.
About a week from when this goes up?
Yeah, about a week. Yeah, it's going to be probably around the time that podcast goes up is when that coaster is going to reopen. So
nice.
That was never really the best ride. Boulder Dash, however, is a fantastic ride. And that was recently retracked. Boulder Dash has won golden ticket at least 2 or 3 times from Amusement Today for best wood coaster in the country. slash world. CCI built it. It's can't remember the first name of the guy. Bill is his last name. Was the key designer on it. It's a terrain ride. It's kind of an out and back ride. Runs along the side of Southington Mountain. When it was being constructed, a lot of people were like, okay, so this is going to be like the super version of the Raven at Holiday World. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels that way in a little bit, but it's more of an out and back ride, so it doesn't have a lot of the side to side action that Raven has. It's mostly an airtime ride, but it's really, really good. And it's running really well right now. What else did we go on? We did the Sky Ride there. There's a section of the park which is referred to eternally as Deep South, which is they have this like long pathway that leads away from the core of the park to this little like island of stuff that they have at the other end of the lake, and that's where they have their picnic pavilions and the Sky Ride. And Sky Ride's basically just a European-built ski lift attraction that goes up the mountain. It's about a 40-minute ride. And you get really awesome views. You can actually see the city of Hartford over the mountains when you get to the top of there. And I'd say the Sky Ride at that park is probably like my favorite one. It's one of the steepest ones in the country too, as far as chairlifts go. They have an actual trolley, which is on rental from the Connecticut Trolley Museum. And I've operated that trolley way back in the day. It's a real trolley, and if you screw up, you can really run it into the shed, which people had done. Let's see, skip the log flume. Oh, we did Ghost Hunt. Ghost Hunt just got new guns and targeting from Logotronics, and that was nice. Works really well. They moved to a trackless ride from having track on it about 6-7 years ago. The inside of it was redone at that time. Now with a new targeting system, it does stuff like when you get back to the station, it'll read on a screen like who had the highest score in the car.
Ooh, that's nice.
So it was pretty good, and it really was working pretty well. There's also the newest ride that they have there, which is Phobia, which is a premier skyrocket coaster. Pretty much identical in a lot of ways to what Busch Gardens Williamsburg got last year. Mm-hmm. And Six Flags Discovery Kingdom the year before, and a few other parks got them as well. And they call it a triple launch coaster. Basically, it has this sort of back and forth action with the induction magnet launch. So it goes forward, and then basically goes up a little bit up the structure, then it goes backwards, and then it launches at full speed to go through the rest of the circuit. It's basically, to try and explain it to people that have never seen a picture of this, if you picture like a loop with like another loop in the middle of it, that's basically one of the premier skyrocket rides. So you like go up in the loop, then you kind of turn out of it like a non-inverting loop, kind of similar to what you have on Rip Ride Rocket at Universal. And then it turns into a zero G roll, and then you drop into a loop that's basically hung upside down. And then you come out of that and then into the back end of the giant loop that you're part of. I thought it was really good. It's a nice, forceful ride for what it does, for the size of it. It's a good ride. So all positives about that one. So that was the first park we hit. We had 4 that trip because that's how we do things. Coaster enthusiasts do things like that. Like a lot of theme park people are like, I went to one park this one time, and I'm like, I did like 3 in a day. Like come on guys, advanced level. I was telling Lane about that. Lane was like, should I go to? He's going to Holiday World this weekend.
He is. He didn't tell me that.
Yeah. And he's staying in Louisville, and I'm like, you're going to Kentucky Kingdom, right? He's like, should I? I was like, I just really want to go to Holiday World. I'm like, no, dude. No. I was like, you start at Kentucky Kingdom because you get like a 2-day pass for $30, and then you do the coasters going from back to front, and then you get in the car and you drive to Holiday World because you pick up an hour going to Central, and then you do everything at Holiday World, then you go back, and then you go back the next day to Kentucky Kingdom if you miss anything. That's how the pros do it. That's how the real boys do it. So went to Quasi.
Take your word for it.
Yeah. This is how we operate. So went to Quasi, same day as Compounce. Quasi is a small amusement park. Quasi stands for Lake Quassapog, and it's over in Middlebury, Connecticut. I used to go there a lot when I was in like the days of Wrecked Out Roller Coaster, because people would come to New England after they built Superman at Six Flags New England and Boulder Dash a lot. And when everyone would come to Lake Compounce, they would also need to go to Quasi because coaster enthusiasts need the credit. We call these credits for some reason. I don't know who came up with this, but they're called coaster credits. And like everyone has their credit list, kind of like train people have a train list of like every train they've been on or seen, or bird lists for birders. Like we have the same thing as a credit count or coaster count. So everyone would need to go to Quasi because I had a kid's coaster and this wild mouse that felt like being on a trash can rolling down a hill. And they replaced that with Wooden
Nice.
Warrior.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah, no, it was a great wild mouse. I mean, it was utterly terrible, but it was terrible in all the right ways. It was like a 1955
What is
commercial
that?
monster mouse. It was great.
Oh, nice. Now, what is the park that has that wooden wild mouse? Is that Blackpool?
Yeah. That's the most well known one. There's one in Sydney, also at Luna Park, and there's actually a couple of them in Indonesia, in East Java.
Yeah, I never knew the existence of the wooden wild mouses until Roller Coaster Tycoon Corkscrew Follies.
Oh my God, they're so good. They're so good. I rode the one at Southport in the UK, and I rode the one at Blackpool. And actually, there was a wild mouse in the US, which was a steel wild mouse. Actually, it was in Canada at Pacific National Exhibition Grounds in Vancouver. That basically was just like the one at Blackpool, but with steel track instead of wood. And those things, because those have the upstop, basically what prevents the cars from flying off into the air and hurtling to the ground. They're set.
Yeah, we don't need those.
They're set in the center of the car. So like when you play Roller Coaster Tycoon and you watch the wooden wild mice, when it goes around the corners, they kind of tilt, off the track. And everyone's like, there's no way that they would actually do that. But that's actually what they do in real life.
Nice.
And you can feel it really hard. And you're like, this is nuts. This is great. Wooden wild mice are fantastic. So they don't have the wild mouse anymore. R.I.P. Monster Mouse. They do have Wooden Warrior, which is a Gravity Group junior wood coaster that they built. It has the Timberliner trains. It was actually the first coaster to get them. And it is super good for a tiny ride that's like 40 feet tall and 1,300 feet long. It's probably got like 9 airtime hills. And it tracks fantastic. My mom loved it. My wife loved it. Like, they were like, this is the best ride. This is great. This is like everything you could possibly ask for in a wood coaster, especially one that's tiny. Like, it's like a little palm-sized wooden roller coaster, and yet it's so good. It's so good. So Quasi, if you're in New England, definitely, gotta stop at Quasi and at Lake Compounce for sure. The next day, we made the trip out to Rye Playland, which I have not been to in 14 years. So it's been a really long time. Even when I was living in New England, I had like a really bad car. I had this 92 Buick Park Avenue that would shudder at speed. So like when you would go on the freeway and try and do 60, like it would just try to shake itself to death. It was horrible. So I just never went to Rye as a result. I just kind of went to work and back. Rye is a great park. The entire thing is a National Historic Landmark. If you've ever seen the movie Big, like Big is in Rye. Like that's where all the stuff happens. That's where he goes to the fortune-telling machine and they get their personality switched and all that stuff happens in Rye. Rye is a gorgeous park. It's beautiful. The Art Deco architecture in that park is outrageous. It's super good. The only problem with the park is that it doesn't really have any good roller coasters. In fact, it has actively terrible ones for the most part. We went on Superflight, which is a Volare from Zamperla, which is a flying coaster. My friend Mark, who I did the first Immersive Irony Experience podcast with, takes credit for having designed that ride on a napkin years ago. Like, he's like, I came up with it. He was really proud of it up until they actually built one. And then everyone was like, that was you, and he doesn't talk about it anymore. They're hideous rides. They basically, like we were talking about, rides that feel like you're in a trash can rolling down a hill. You get put in a cage, and then they shake the cage, and that's what it feels like. and you don't. There's never enough room between you and like the walls of the cage so that you're like pinned, so that you don't feel like being thrown against the cage walls. So you're just kind of like tossed around in the cage, and then the ride's over, and not good. I would not suggest it to anybody, but we had to do it to credit. And then my wife did not have the Wild Mouse there, so we did the Wild Mouse. We did their 2 dark rides. The Wild Mouse was okay. I should mention that. The 2 dark rides that are the classics, there's the Flying Witch and Zombie Castle, which are like super old school, just like get in it, and there's a bunch of stunts and they go wild. And there's lots of like decapitations and screaming. And, it's so good. It's wonderful. The only
Zombie
downside,
Castle.
yeah, Zombie Castle is like it's big. Like Flying Witch is like super huge and wild, and like the paint job on the exterior and all the little animatronic things that are moving are so cool. We missed the old mill. They have an old mill there that Sally redid about 15 years ago, and like put these elf things in. So it has like animatronics and like a dragon, and we ended up like by the time we got to it, there was like a 1 hour wait. It just was. Went to ride. That was fun. They have a racing derby. Cedar Point has a racing derby. Blackpool has a racing derby, and Rye has a racing derby.
Hey, Alan.
I've never seen a racing derby before. It looks like a carousel, but it's not.
Hey, Alan. 1 second. Your audio is sounding really far away, so make sure your microphone is near you. Yep.
Yeah. Low.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Better.
Yeah. You sound good. It was just kind of going like really far away, really close. So just make sure. Cool.
I feel like the headset's like slipping off my head.
That's
so
very possible. We're going long and hard here, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So the racing derby rides, Cedar Point has one, and it's good. The one that's at Rye is outrageous. Like they run it at twice the speed of the Cedar Point one. It's so fast, and it actually like it's like a physical thing that you have to do. And the most amazing part is they have attendants that jump on and off the ride while it's moving, and they have this tilt to their bodies where they have to lean into like the centrifugal force of the attraction as it's spinning at full speed. And I love it.
Why are the attendants jumping on and off the ride?
To like help people. I mean, the ride is physically intense. Like the one that's at Cedar Point, you just kind of sit on it. Like this one, it's mandatory that you put your left foot on the bottom peg and your right foot on the top peg. That way you can lean into it as it's moving because it goes so much faster. Like you literally it's trying to buck you off.
I think I showed that video to you, Jeff, about the attendants who are yeah.
I mean, it's super gnarly that they allow that still. I don't know how they do it, but God bless them. God bless them. That would be like the most fun.
I love those rides.
It's like there's not many rides out there. There's virtually none in America where they have that sort of thing happen. You see it a lot in Europe. Like if you see a waltzer ride, which is basically like a tilt-a-whirl, you'll see waltzers and you'll see attendants on the waltzers walking around the ride as it's moving, like spinning the cars, so that you go like super, super fast spinning around. You'll see that, but almost never in America. There at Rye, you still see it, which is pretty rad. And then the last park we did was the Monday when we were flying out on Memorial Day. We did Six Flags New England, and haven't been there in a long time. They just opened one of the new Joker coasters, which is a S&S Free Fly, and it's not very good. It's basically their fourth dimension coaster.
Oh.
And it's kind of similar to Green Lantern at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's a little bit different because it doesn't have the front to back or back to back seating like that one does. It's got separated cars. But overall, it's really not my favorite kind of ride. It's short. You don't really see where you're going. You're flipping around pretty wildly, but it feels pointless. I'm not a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we did that was new to all of us, was Wicked Cyclone, which is the old Riverside Cyclone, which was redone by Rocky Mountain for, I think, 2 seasons ago, possibly. Either last season or 2 seasons ago. Same year as they did Colossus, they did Wicked Cyclone. Mm-hmm. And Wicked Cyclone came out.
Are they thinking about doing Ghost Rider?
Well, GCI just did Ghost Rider.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah, that just reopened last year. They retracked the whole ride and redid like the flying end. Yeah, no, it's got new trains and everything. No, it's they're not touching that one for a while. Probably until it gets ruined.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
I always try to be pessimistic with that. Like running wood coasters in Southern California just never seems to work. I don't know what it is. Just never does.
Well, hey, no, the Giant Dipper at Belmont is still going strong out in San Diego.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? It runs pretty well too. Part of that might be because it has lightweight fiberglass trains. That's my guess, but I don't know. It's okay. It definitely is not like rough or bad or anything like that. It's the only one that you can point at out there because the stuff that Magic Mountain has always had has been terrible. Always.
Yeah.
And Ghost Rider had
remember
like a really good,
remember
like,
Cyclone with the
Oh God,
you
that
remember
was like
Cyclone with the P?
horrible. That ride was horrible. Terrible ride. I've heard that
It was
bad
literally
now.
so awful.
Yeah,
So
Cyclone was
Joe, the whole thing about Cyclone at Magic Mountain was that it was like the original Cyclone at Coney Island, except it was reversed. But for some reason, it was just so ridiculously rough. Like I don't know what they did, but like Six Flags just completely ruined it. It's like Son of Beast territory.
Oh boy.
You know who built
I
the
mean, like
trains?
I really liked Apocalypse, which is weird because that was good.
Apocalypse was decent when I wrote it. I've heard it's bad now though. I've heard it's gone to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten really rough. I wrote it like 2 years ago. It's gotten really rough.
You know who built the trains for Cyclone?
Who?
B&M.
Really?
It's a fact. Yeah, they were horrible trains. They actually used to put them on backwards on Colossus for like Halloween or something like that too.
Sounds about right.
They were ultra heavy. Like they clearly did not know what they were doing with wood coasters.
What a surprise.
It showed. So anyways, Wicked Cyclone is really good. Really good. I was a big fan of the Riverside Cyclone when I was a kid. That ride was probably the most overall violent ride that I ever went on. That was still good. It sucks that the original version's gone, but it hasn't been the same since about 2002 anyways, when they started revamping aspects of that ride. So at this point, to have a new steel coaster that's really good, it has a ton of airtime, it's got 3 inversions. The end of that ride is really solid. We had some rain that was going on, so that I think loosened up the train a little bit, had it run a little bit faster. It was really, really good. I would highly recommend that. Superman Ride of Steel there, which is an Intamin Hyper, was running really well at Six Flags. We did a couple other things that was there. There's VR on their Vekoma SLC. We skipped that. It probably wasn't even operating with the VR because of the rain, so not a real loss. And we did Houdini because you have to do Houdini when you're at Six Flags New England.
Oh, Houdini.
Oh yeah, Houdini.
Houdini there was actually
Houdini
really
at
good.
Do they still have Houdini at Six Flags New Jersey?
Yes. The New England one though
Remember that one?
With the New Jersey one, they got rid of the screen that descended from the ceiling and the projector, and they changed it out to being a plasma TV. And then like most of the sounds weren't working. When we went into Houdini at Six Flags New England, it was crisp. It looked beautiful inside. Everything worked. They still had the screen. They still used a projector. It looked awesome. And it ran really well. It looked good. It looked like it was being taken good care of. So I have nothing bad to say about that situation. Loved it.
Awesome.
Houdini's great. So that was the Memorial Day trip. Last weekend, I did another trip where I went to Holiday World, and that was Hollywood Nights, which is kind of it's like the gathering of the juggalos for the coaster world. There's
Very
no-
literally, yes.
but-
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, there's certain things that were like, there's a call that goes out, and people are just like they just know that they have to return, and that's one of those things is Hollywood Nights, and it really appeals to a sort of specific subgroup. Like a lot of the people that are into roller coasters, and some of the people that are listening to this may not be necessarily coaster people and not really know what that subgroup is like. Some people don't like, the really intense wooden roller coasters that were being built in the 90s. My wife's not a big fan, so she doesn't go. She really likes the Intamin rides. She likes Rocky Mountain Coaster stuff. But when it comes to like CCI and gravity groups, like super hardcore stuff, it's not her bag. If it is your bag, like me, then going to Holiday World for Hollywood Nights is like, it's the pinnacle. It's like everything you can possibly ask for in coasterdom. If you gave me Voyage as I wrote it last weekend, and at night with no break on the block break to slow you down, and you were like, this is the only ride you ever get to ride again, I'd be totally okay with that. I wouldn't even miss anything else. I'd be like, yep, I have this. I will die riding this.
That's
I don't
pretty
care.
wild, man.
It's about. Have both of you been on Voyage yet?
Yeah, together.
Been on. Oh, okay.
Absolutely, we were on it together.
Yeah, this is like. Trying to think how to put it. I have a friend of mine who I actually was hanging out with quite a bit, Mike, and Mike's a real old timer. Like Mike is old enough as an old timer to have joined Ace in like '81. Like he's an old dude. Like even even like other old people are like, yeah, Mike's an old timer, like real old timer, and he kind of ranks them on like a 1 to 10 scale of Voyage, and there's like everything else in the whole world that he's ever been on, but then there's Voyage, and it was like running at like an 8.5 for him. He has really high expectations of Voyage. It was good. It was really good. Night rides on Voyage, man, come on.
I can only imagine.
Come on. It's,
yeah.
When you come screaming out of the triple down and you can't see anything, it's just like noise and things happening,
It's a horror movie.
I'm salivating right now.
I get the people that are like, I love immersive experiences, but like I have a really high like threshold for stimulus. Like I need a lot to like take me over that level, and like pretty much the only stuff that really does it are the wood coasters at Holiday World and like a select group of other rides. Maybe 10 coasters, almost all of which are wooden.
Back in the day, back in the Paramount days, when they, when Beast didn't have as many lights as it did, and it didn't have as many brakes, and you went into that final helix. I mean, that was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that was nuts. And like it's noisy and it's loud and stuff is happening and your body's getting tossed around. And you're like, this is great. Like Voyage is like that feeling for a solid minute. We're just nonstop, and it's faster and wilder and crazier. And the best part is that park has 2 other wood coasters that are basically along the same lines, because you've got Raven and you have Legend, and they're all like insanely like violent, same kind of ultra intensity. And man, they were so good. The only downside was the only downside was that on the second day of the ERT, Voyage was closed up until the last 30 minutes. So a lot of people left. So when it reopened, then we got on it. They were having issues with the sensors. I mean, it's supposed to run with the block brake being completely on and stopping the train dead before you hit the triple down. So when they turn that off, all of a sudden the train's like picking up like 5 seconds. They're, the whole computer system starts freaking out, like what's happening? Why is the train here? Why is the train going this far forward into the brakes? But eventually they got it figured out, and I got 3 more rides in on Saturday. I got a bunch on Friday. I pretty much was only there for ERT because I've been to Holiday World a lot of times. There's also Thunderbird, which is really good. Mm-hmm. It's named after really bad bum wine, and it actually has a pretty decent amount of theming to it, and it's a really good wing coaster from B&M.
Good.
But unfortunately for me, it's in the same park as Raven, Legend, and Voyage, so I just ride those.
Yes.
And I ended up with like all sorts of bruises and cuts, and I'm still sore several days later, but it was totally worth it.
Did you get to do the water coasters?
I skipped it. I did the water park a couple years ago for the ERT. Okay. This year I was just like, I just wanted to get down there and just ride Voyage. Like I'm like, I know Voyage is gonna have to break off. It's all I care about. I wake up like Voyage.
So the next question we have, Jeff and I have, is very simple. It's how much did you ride Gobbler Getaway?
Not once.
Damn it!
I know.
God damn it!
I was told that they replaced the fur on the cat that the grandma holds.
What? So it's not longer
So now it's not like a bald spot. So for people who've never heard of Gobbler Getaway, it's this insane.
That's the greatest thing in the world.
It's incredible. So Sally built this dark ride in their Thanksgiving section across from where Voyage is, and you don't shoot turkeys. You like shoot targets to call turkey.
It's a turkey caller.
And so when my wife and I went to Hollywood Nights for her only trip to this park, how many years ago? Like 5 or 6 years ago. The ride had been like weirdly broken down the whole time, and then when we finally got on it, like none of the stuff worked. And like the animatronic grandma in the rocking chair that tells you like the story of the ride
in the pre-show. Yeah.
Yeah, she was broken, so there's just like audio
Oh.
nothing happening. And then like there was one point in the ride where there was like water all over the floor, and there's like an attendant sitting on a stool, and we went past her, and the ride started to slow down a ton. So clearly, like her only purpose sitting there was to like push the car through when it stopped.
Oh no.
Oh my
So
goodness.
So my wife was not a big fan of Gobbler Got Away. I had significantly better rides years later, but I skipped it this time. I could have been on it, but I had other priorities at that park.
Gobbler
Basically.
Getaway is pretty legit.
It's so good. They did get for this year Holiday World. They got a
They got
so
Calypso. So like Tiki Twirl and then it's called Fireworks or Firecracker or something like that, right?
And it's which actually is it Firecracker? I don't remember. If it's Firecracker, then they've already used that name before for a roller coaster at the same park.
Yeah.
So it's not very original, but whatever. They can do what they want to. And they were running it at full speed for the ERT session, which I don't think I've ever been on one of those at full speed. It was good. It was bouncy.
They rebuilt it. Like they rebuilt that ride.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They did do a lot of work to it. It was sitting in a field at Fun Spot in Angola, Indiana.
That's nuts.
For like 5 years. And they picked it up. There was a bunch of rides that got saved out of that place. There's a Troika over at
Troika.
Troika. Yeah. So anyways, that ride was there. It looked really good. They had a really nice LED light set up on it. I like Holiday World. I do. I just like the wood coasters, but the wood coasters are so good. It makes up for like all the other issues that I might have with the park. Like
I like the free Hawaiian punch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, the free drinks. They had free Big Red. Like, come on, man. Oh, so Lake Compounce and Holiday World both have free soft drinks. I should mention that to people. They have free soft
Lake Compounce does too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's the best. Like, you go in and you're like, I want Sprite. And you just, like, grab a cup and you drink from it. And then, so the last park that I did was on that trip. Since I don't know what's going on with my job at the moment and whether or not I will still be residing in the state of Michigan past X date in the future, I was like, I might as well go. I stopped in Evansville. I drove through Owensboro, Kentucky, and eventually got to the park called Beach Bend, which is in Bowling.
Oh, yes.
And Beach Bend is like the classic permanent carnival. It pretty much like all portable rides, like all trailer-based rides. It's an interesting park. It's an amusement park / water park / racetrack facility with a drag strip and an oval track / campground. Like it gives you everything you could ever possibly want in terms of like rural American goodness, and it just mashes it together and it hands it to you in this one convenient package.
Hell yes.
I was there. I spent probably 5 hours in transit to and from to go there for 50 minutes. I rode Kentucky Rumbler, which is their GCI coaster, twice. It was good.
Nice.
It had the slowest operations I've ever seen on any ride, and I've been to a lot of places to see glacial operations. The way they were running it was the train would come back, they'd open the lap bars, everyone would leave the train, and then everyone would have to leave the platform. And then once everyone left the platform, then the attendant would check everybody's height, and they checked everyone's height, not just like kids, but like me and like full-grown adults. And then they would talk to us for a little while, and then they would open the gates, and we got on the train, and then we put on our seatbelts, and then they would check the seatbelts like one at a time, and like they would pull really hard on the seatbelt. So we were basically like, we were in that train. We were definitely in that train. And then after they did that, then they would hit the lap bar button and drop the lap bars and check those. And then finally we'd dispatch. So it was like 10 minutes that took them to dispatch one train for that coaster. And it's a good ride. It's a decent GCI. It doesn't do anything like particularly spectacular. Kind of reminds you of like when Wildcat was good is how I would define that specific ride. But
okay.
You know, it's decent. The only other things I did there, they have a new SBF spinning coaster for kids called Spinning Out Dragon Wagon, which literally collapsed with people on it last year.
Oh.
That was a mistake on there. They probably should have done. Yeah, they didn't apparently bolt it, or the bolts just like tore out of it and it just like fell apart. Like the train like plunged to the ground like 6 feet. It's just classic Beach Bend. And then I also did their drop tower, which is an ARM drop tower. And ARM drop towers are terrifying, super terrifying. They feel like the Intamins like feel a little bit like stiffer, like a little bit stronger, a little more sturdy of a ride. ARMs are basically built for the portable industry. Even ones like this, it's a permanent one. It's 147 feet tall, but it still has like everything kind of feels not flimsy, but feels lighter. It makes sense because it's got to fit on a trailer. It goes up extremely slow up the tower, and when you get to the top, it just basically the way the whole car, it hits the top and it hits a pin, and that releases the vehicle. It hits free fall, and the braking is so late. Like you probably brake 10 feet from the ground. So if you're used to what the gyro drop does at Kings Island, and you ride this, like you basically spend like the last half second of the ride going stop, 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 and then finally it hits stop, and then you're like, wow, okay, that was horrifying, and then you exit. But that was pretty much it. I've been to the park before. I've done their dark ride, which is not that great. I did their antique cars, which is not that great. They have a spinning mouse, which is not that great. They have a really cool pro slide set of water coasters, which they got last year, which I skipped. Mm-hmm. And they also have the pirate ship, which belonged to Michael Jackson.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my.
And it plays Thriller all the time.
Ooh, that's awkward.
Yeah, and it has a plaque, and it's like, this is like the Michael Jackson Memorial Huss Pirate Ship. And it's like this was at what was his thing called? Neverland. This was at Neverland.
Neverland Ranch.
Imagine you spend like $25,000 on a used ride, and you're like, oh my god, we're going to totally market the hell out of this. Like, come on, guys. That's Beach Bend. That's so Beach Bend. So, anyways, I saw a lot of people. I don't know how many of them will ever listen to this, but Alex Nagel from PTC, I rode a lot with him. My buddy Mike Saunders, Sean Flaherty, who's on the podcast.
Yep.
Chris Trotter, Rob Ackerman out there in Twitterland. He'll never listen to this, but whatever. So many people. Captain Morgan. Shout out to Captain Morgan. God. Yeah, Rob Ackerman had his campsite set up, which I didn't get to go see it. He and his friends all set up his campsite with these like huge colored LEDs, and you could see it from the turnaround, like the big like turn drop on Legend. You could like see into the trees and see this like glowing green thing off
the Legend.
Yeah,
and then on the Legend, really?
Yeah, you like wow. So you're on Legend. And you're like everyone like the whole time. He's like, we gotta see if we can find the campsite. Like if we can see it from here.
Not Raven. Yep. Legend.
Yeah, Legend. Wow. Yeah, it was. So shout out to them for doing that. I wish I could party with them, but there was like a gate check thing at the campground, which I thought was lame.
Yeah.
God, there was a lot of people there. There's a lot of. I mean, it's a coaster event, so there's always people. And it was cool. It was good times. And there you go. Any questions about these parks?
I've talked to Alan enough. Jeff, do you have any questions?
How far away from how far away is Lake Compounce from the New York Finger Lake district?
Probably about like 2 hours, I would guess. Like no. Finger Lakes. You're thinking of like central New York, right? You're not thinking of like Lake George. Oh, it's probably like 4.5.
No, it's
probably like 4.5. I would guess. I mean, basically, if you go and take 90 straight over, then drop down on I think it's 87, whatever runs south from Albany. You can kind of basically need to work your way over to I-84, and once you get on I-84, it's exit 31. It's not bad. I mean, and then if you go there, like Quasi is legit 20 minutes away off of I-84 also, so it really works out. Finger Lakes, if you're going to the Finger Lakes to do parks, Water Safari, that's number one. And because it's a bizarre park. I've never been there actually, but I've heard nothing but awesome things. It's old concrete slides and a sky ride and some random flats and something like Idlewild where they have like a storybook park. And then you got to at least do the Laughland dark ride over at Sylvan Beach before it closes down forever, because that's like inevitable. That place looks rough. Is that imminent? If it's not, it's shocking. I thought I was going to go through the floorboards of the station on their coaster.
Oh, jeez.
Like they have a rotor that's there. If you've ever been on a rotor before,
Yes. I was a frequent visitor of the old Geauga Lake rotor.
Oh yeah. So they do have a rotor, but it doesn't have a cover on it, so it looks super faded. And the park had like instead of like a proper roof, they had tarps over the roof of buildings. The arcades are really nice though, and the Fascination there is good. So I'll say that in favor of Sylvan Beach. I was just there last Labor Day.
Cool.
That's all.
Okay.
I just ask you guys questions. I just talked for like a half hour. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked for like 40 minutes straight, so.
Yeah.
Jeff, let's start off with our little trip, shall we?
Okay, do you want to do Cedar Point first, or do you want to skip Cedar Point?
Well, I talked Cedar Point a little bit on our last show. I'm opening my LaCroix right now. So
okay.
Hold on. There we go.
Then,
so, I mean, do you want to add anything? Do you want to add anything to Cedar Point?
Yeah, let me just do Cedar Point, real quick.
How great was Melt?
I mean, yes. I mean, that was mostly what I was going to add. So, I mean, the thing
Alan,
with me...
too.
Yes, yes, definitely. Good. So, yeah. So the thing, I mean, I enjoy, these kind of amusement parks for not only the big, awesome roller coasters, but also to get on the rides that you're not able to go on other places. So for Cedar Point, it's Cedar Downs and it's Tiki Twirl. I always love Witch's Wheel and Matterhorn, which I know Witch's Wheel is not unique, but it's one of my favorites.
Himalaya 64.
Yeah. Well, Super Himalaya is one of the Music Express sort of models, so you see those everywhere. But you don't see Matterhorn. Matterhorn, you don't see that kind of model very many places. So it was a joy to go on those rides again. And, obviously the roller coasters. I had, there were no new roller coasters because I was on Valraven last year. But, I mean, I just enjoy, like, all the roller coasters they're building, Valraven, Gatekeeper, Maverick, are just, top of the class. I mean, it's fantastic. I absolutely love those rides. And then, Melt is fantastic that it's there with the old disaster transport signs and the Banshee signs. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that is a Cedar Point fan's wet dream, is that place right there.
And the food's amazing. And it's a proper sit down. And they have a full drink menu. And
they have all of the old height signs with the cartoon characters, including the Demon Drop sign, which was the best one.
It's everything you ever could have asked for. Like, in terms of an upgrade for a restaurant, I don't think there's anything even comparable to go from, like, Joe Cool Cafe to that.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is truly, like, I mentioned it to Jeff and Jeff's cousin Andrew when I came back, is like, I went to the restroom, and the restroom was like going into a 1980s Catholic school, like, restroom.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's like, awesome new place, really old awkward place. It's like, you guys need to really work on this, like, everything. But, like, what's great is Melt does is they go into a place, they embrace the history, and then they just do what they do really well. And it sounds like they're still having some issues with scaling up, which I get still. I think Thrill Geek had some service issues, but they love the food. We didn't have any service issues. I don't know about you, Alan. We were on really quiet days, of course. But, we had, like, just random stuff on TV. We were watching random episodes of Teen Titans. And some dude came in.
And women's softball.
Yeah, and then, like, some dude's like, are you going to have the Pens game on? And they're like, yeah, we'll have the Pens game. I was like, okay, I'll be back in a little bit. Can I get chocolate milk? So it's, like, kind of one of those things. Not for him.
I remember that.
Yeah.
The Pens game was on in, like, 3 hours. It's like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you?
He was like, yeah, the Pens game on. So, like, but it got to the point, like, that was so good, I'm like, for dinner, do you want to go there again? And Andrew and, like, Jeff were like, no. But
go somewhere else. No, but I love the. I mean, Alan, what you were talking about, the Joe Cool transformation. I mean, that's the equivalent of, like, turning Pizzafari into a Delmonico's.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's an outrageous upgrade, and it's almost criminal that they had people go to Joe Cool Cafe last year.
It was
when you compare, like, what's there now.
It's a Target.
People
it's a
actually
Target.
Wandered in there.
It's a Target, like Pizza Hut, like that Target fast food cafe they have in every Target with the Pizza Hut, like, single individual pizzas. That's all it was. And now it has a full bar, and this awesome food. It's ridiculous. It's just mind-blowingly good. And just as good as the other locations. It shouldn't exist.
It's too good for this world.
Yes. Which means it's going to close at the end of the season, so go now.
Of course. Yeah.
It's actually closing tomorrow.
It was a good run.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Live fast, die young, melt. There we go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, let's move on to Pennsylvania. So, you picked me up on a Friday after work. They kicked me out of work early, so you picked me up, and I was hungry, and you were hungry, and we were driving through Pennsylvania. And I'm sorry, I have to touch on this story because it's so good. But we're driving, starving, and we're like, we need to sit down and get something to eat. Okay. We're waiting.
Like 5 minutes after we just passed like a big like fast food like restaurant stop.
With like the only McDonald's for like 5 hours. It's like, oh damn it. And then we're like, and then Jeff's like, or I'm like, you know what? We need a beer. So I was like Googling on my phone, actually on my my laptop because I was tethered it. So I'm like, so about like 20 minutes from now, there's a rest stop area, and we can go to Applebee's. And Jeff's like, Applebee's? And I'm like, Applebee's. So we decided to go to Applebee's, and I'm hyping Applebee's for like a good 20 minutes. Like, do you know what I want right now? I want some mozzarella sticks. I want some 2 for $20 menu items. I want some chicken tenders. I want some Applebee's. So
I was about to strangle you too. So I mean, the best part of that whole drive was like we were in freaking Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, and you were on your laptop with the GPS, and like we would look at every single stop on the highway that's in front of us, and you'd be like, "Yeah, nope, no food there. Nope, not here."
Do you want to go to Subway?
No more food.
Do you want to go to Subway or a Travel Lodge or like? Do you want to go to the only Burger King in 50 miles? Probably not.
Yeah, it was literally like for like 30 miles. It was like a Subway or like the Travel Lodge bubblegum machine.
Yeah, it was real bad. So we're like, this is the location. We're stopping here. We're going to Applebee's. So we went to Applebee's. We had mozzarella sticks. We got the 2 for $20 deal. We got mozzarella sticks. Jeff got the burger. I got some chicken tenders. We had a beer. I had 2 beers.
It was painfully mediocre.
Painfully mediocre. We researched the next 2 theme parks we're going to. We enjoyed the terrible Mets game we were watching. And we left. And I also remember to the right of me those girls. We sat next to these women to the right of me, and they were like talking about these guys who were walking in who they thought were like firemen or something, and then they like moved down another chair from where I sat, and I'm like, I showered today. It's like, what's going on here? So yeah, so that was a good time. So we get into where do we stay on Friday night? The Econo Lodge?
Red Roof Inn.
Oh, the Red Roof Inn in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Harrisburg East, Pennsylvania.
This is one of the newfangled ones that sort of look like the new Pop Century resorts, where you got that fake wood paneling floor and that modern headboard. So we don't care. Luckily, the vending machine accepted Apple Pay, so I got like a thing of Gatorade, which was amazing.
Yeah, I remember.
That was great. So Apple Pay, Gatorade, passed out. So I wake up at like 2 a.m. to what could only be described as the loudest person next to us having sex in the world. Knocking. And luckily, it was a very quick session because it ended after like 4 minutes or so, or 5 minutes. And then I just passed back out. And then we wake up, we're packed, and then we head to Hersheypark. And Hersheypark, I've not been to in probably 7-8 years. Easy, Jeff?
Yeah, I think we went in 07 was the last time we went to Hershey.
Yeah, we haven't been in a long time. So, Yeah, we went there, and it was just like deja vu, just of like parking there, and they're like, "Have a sweet day," and I'm like, "Oh yes, I remember this. It's so good." Yes. So we get there, and
it bears mentioning before we start that with our 3 parks, Cedar Point, Kennywood, Hersheypark, we completely lucked out with the weather and the attendance. It was ridiculous. Like the weather was threatening all 3 days. The weather was threatening to rain, which convinced everyone to not go to the park, even on Memorial Day weekend. So we had practically a half full park all 3 times. It was the most ideal conditions, and it ended up not raining that much. The sun was out most of the day, but it didn't rain that much. But it was the most ideal conditions for an amusement park. It was fantastic.
yeah. So we get to Hershey. So our main goal, 3 rides we haven't been on yet: Sky Rush, Fahrenheit, and then Laugh Track. Yeah, Laugh Track.
Laugh Track. Yeah.
So, Sky Rush.
Thigh Crush.
Yeah, Thigh Crush. That was a ride. I rode on the. I think we were in like the second to last row, and I was on like the left outside car the first time we rode. Like, we didn't even wait. We just walked right on. Jeff, what are your thoughts? We'll start with you.
It was so painful. Like I don't get, like, do people test these things? Like, how can you not tell that, like, this is going to crush people?
You mean the restraints?
Yes, the restraints. Like it was so painful. I don't remember, like, literally since like the B&M or Vekoma stand-up coasters was I this uncomfortable on a ride.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's the crazy thing is, like, if they just built a standard, normal ass like hyper coaster, that'd probably be pretty badass. But instead they're like, oh well, we'll drop the restraints above and we'll lock them in place and they'll come down eventually 5 inches over the whole ride. And yeah, that was, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was not
Let's
great.
talk about how messed up everything is with Sky Rush.
Okay.
There's so many things that are bad that they did. Like, number one, the station. So
Yeah.
Sky Rush has 4 cross trains, and so there's a lot of people, and it has wing seating, kind of, sorta.
Mm-hmm.
In that you have no floor for half of the seats in the row on the outside, but then you have a floor in the middle, and then you only come in from one side.
And you exit from the same side.
So it's just a complete cluster anytime that train comes back in when they're trying to, like, get dispatched. And then there's the restraints.
Plus the ride attendants at Hersheyparks aren't exactly expert level, so they weren't filling the trains. Like, there'd be all these rows of 2 where there's just 2 people, and then 2 empty seats. And like that was pretty much the norm though for Hersheypark. They weren't exactly 100% with the ops.
Yeah, they're definitely not perfect there. There's a lot in terms of, like, and also because, like, you've got these cubicle sort of things, like your little cubbies you put stuff into, that are on that same side as where you enter. So it's just a huge cluster every time it comes back in. It's a pretty short ride. It doesn't have like a helix section, but I'm kind of okay with that. I
was glad it was a short.
I spent an amount of time, and I eventually came up with a riding position. Actually, my friend Kyle did. And we went with him to Six Flags and all this stuff in New England. We were with him at Hershey last August. And he came up with this riding position that for us seemed to kind of work, where, like, instead of holding on to the restraint, like, on the bar in the front where you're supposed to, we held it from the bottom. Because, like, the whole thing, like, comes from overhead, this lap bar, and it basically hooks up into your crotchal area, like, with, like, a knife edge. And the forces that are imparted by that ride are absurd. Like, the negative G-force on that ride is completely outrageous. It's totally wrong. It's a miracle it hasn't killed anybody. I honestly cannot believe that there has not been a death on Sky Rush. Like, the first time we rode it, we're like, how has no one died? How has no one been killed on this? And I guess it's because it holds you in by this knife edge along the crotch and thighs.
The middle of the thighs kind of thing.
Yeah, we somehow figured out how we could ride it, and it didn't hurt that bad. And we ended up, like, riding it repeatedly. Like, we had, like, 8 rides at night while our wives just sat and watched us. I love Sky Rush. I think it's crazy. I think it's nuts. I think it's probably my favorite steel coaster. And I know that there's a few people that feel that way, and there's a whole lot of people that do not.
Your favorite period?
A steel coaster. Like, wood coasters are a different universe. And,
so, like even better than Maverick or anything like that?
Yeah, better than Expedition G-Force, better than any of the B&M Hypers.
That's... wow.
Yeah, because it's nuts. I mean, it's completely... It has no filler whatsoever. It basically just tries to kill you, and you try to survive, and then that's the end of the ride. And, like I said, I have a high threshold. I need a lot. So when a ride actively tries to kill me at that level, I'm impressed. That's something.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, I just can't disconnect the uncomfortability of those restraints. Like, it basically felt like, the old Outer Limits Flight of Fear when they had over-the-shoulder restraints. I mean, that's how uncomfortable it was. So I can't, as good as the ride was, which had it had, actually good restraints, I think it would have been an awesome ride. But I just couldn't pay attention to it because I was thinking, oh my God, this is so painful. I feel like I'm benching like 600 pounds on my thighs right now.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's not like I don't see why people dislike it. And really, you shouldn't have to learn to ride anything. But for me, the value of trying to learn how to ride that ride was worth it. There's no way. I don't know how anyone can hold their hands up on that thing the whole way either. That thing is nuts. I tried to do it once on the first drop, and it broke me in half. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. That is never. I'm not doing that.
I'm actually a torso talking to you right now.
The legs are still in the back seat of that thing. Yeah, back left on that ride is so gnarly, so unbelievably gnarly.
It is.
It's actually, I would say, one last thing I'll say about this, and I'll let you guys get back to talking about before I interrupt you again, invariably. There's an issue with roller coasters, and RMC and Intamin both kind of at the forefront of this, where they've made roller coasters into this extreme experience when they're really just amusement rides at parks. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not for the best. You really shouldn't be subjecting average human beings to significant negative G-force. It's probably a bad idea. It's probably why people keep dying on rides. In fact, it's obviously why people keep getting thrown off of these things. But
right.
For me personally, I don't know. It's good. I enjoy it. So I'm a wild man. What can I say?
There you go. Sky Rush.
I need to hear about Fahrenheit next. And was it Laugh Track? I need Laugh Track info.
Yeah, so Fahrenheit. Yes. Fahrenheit, we rode next. We rode Sky Rush twice, then we went right to Fahrenheit. We rode Fahrenheit twice again. We just kind of rode wherever we wanted to. I think we rode back, second to back row, and then somewhere in the middle, second time or something like that. Jeff, sound familiar?
I think we did second row and then second to back row. Okay. From what I recall.
I really liked Fahrenheit.
I do too.
I really enjoyed that ride. I thought the fake out before that first almost pretzel roll, kind of pretzel inversion, how it turns you to the left but never mind, you're just going to the right. Was kind of stupidly good. I really liked that ride.
The back that's sort of that back and around inversion that they had before the Cobra roll was fantastic. It's one of my favorite inversions of all time, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was just super fun. I nowhere near as good as Maverick in my opinion, but it was that was good.
Well, see, but the thing that I love about Fahrenheit is that it's a tamer version of Maverick. So you have these rides like Maverick or like Sky Rush that are for the extreme coaster enthusiasts, right? The people who just love extreme G-forces and things like that. But I really appreciate how these parks will also build these rides that are more accessible to more people who don't like the more extreme sort of versions. So I remember Manta at SeaWorld San Diego is very much like that, even though it doesn't have any inversions, but it's very much a family ride, even though it's a launched Maverick type of deal. But it's for like a family audience. So like Fahrenheit is sort of in the middle of Maverick and Manta, where it's far more accessible to a lot more people than Maverick is. And I mean, when they can do that but still make a ride that's that enjoyable, like I really appreciate that. So kudos to them for doing such a good job.
Yeah, the only weird thing was, I think we're talking about is like, I really like the load station. It looks nice. It just doesn't fit into the rides, and that seems to be a theme with Hershey.
That was the thing. Yeah, that was the thing with Hershey is like they have themes sometimes, but they don't theme the load station to what the ride is supposed to be. So like with Fahrenheit, you'd think that it's about heat, so you'd think that maybe there'd be reds and yellows or oranges or something. But I mean, they don't even color the load stations. It's like what they're implying with the theming. It's just odd. Like they don't even take one sort of step. Like even Millennium Force has that load station. That's like the 1998 Disneyland Tomorrowland load station. That at least they tried.
Dragster looks like
with Hershey they have.
Yeah, Dragster looks like a grandstand. The load station. Yeah.
I mean, at least they try somehow. And Maverick is, the wood station is all wood paneled. I mean, they, even though it's very, very basic theming, at least it's something. I mean, with Hershey, that they don't even try. They don't even go, to step one and try and theme or even color their load stations like what their rides are themed to. So that was very odd to me.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's our thoughts on Fahrenheit. Alan?
It's a good ride.
It's a good ride.
You know what? I always find it weird because did you guys go on Storm Runner also?
Yeah. We'll get to Storm Runner. Yeah.
But they only had one train going with Storm Runner, so we could only ride it once.
Yeah, they did for me last year, and it was like we were there on like a Saturday in August. It was the same deal.
It was really bad. It was like one train.
Yeah. It's there's been some issues with that ride, but we'll get to that when you guys get to Storm Runner. I also want to hear about Laugh Track, which is another ride where the capacity makes no sense.
Yeah. So Laugh Track. Then we had the Laugh Track because we're like, we need to ride all the new rides. We need to ride all the new rides. We need to ride all the new rides. So we get the Laugh Track, and we have the second longest wait of the day at Laugh Track. I think we waited 20 minutes for this ride, and it was a weird thing where they clearly did not design any of the queue appropriately, so they have to shuttle people in to the queue so it's not overloading. Like, they designed the ride, and then all of a sudden the fire department comes in and says, you guys don't have a door here, so you can only fill this queue halfway. And they're like, oh shit. So they don't do anything to it. They just station people there to stand there for long enough. So we were outside of the queue for a while, and then the inside is half full, if that, and they just pulse people in there. So we get in the Laugh Track, and Jeff is pumped, thinking this is going to be a Laugh Track, dark ride themed ride, which it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I didn't know anything about the ride, and looking at the outside and with the anticipation, I was like, this is going to be like a Wild Mouse laugh in the dark experience. This is going to be fantastic.
So I've seen on-ride video of it, so I knew somewhat to expect, but I also kind of knew what the ride vehicles were, so I was having a good time with the actual ride profile, because that's the first time I've been on that sort of coaster, that style of the spinning Wild Mouse with the back-to-back style. So I really enjoyed it, but I also knew what I was expecting for the theming. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you know what my thoughts are, but it was a huge missed opportunity in terms of the presentation. I mean, I love the ride profile to death. I mean, I think that's a really cool sort of ride style. But the opportunity they had to sort of create this all new laugh in the dark that could be kid friendly, but still sort of fun house themed. But taking you through like Wild Mouse style through these dark ride sort of fun house sort of settings, and they could have made it multi-level with the building they had, and they just did. It was just an empty sort of ride with lights and cardboard cutouts of clowns smiling. I mean, that was it. And it was, I mean, very similar to Exterminator at Kennywood. It was like there was this build-up, like, there's actually going to be a dark ride. Nope, it's just a roller coaster in a darkened building with some lights. Like that was it. So I mean, that would have been so cool had they actually just pulled the trigger and actually went back to sort of a laugh in the dark sort of funhouse style, but had a wild mouse ride conveyance system. I mean, how cool would that have been?
Yeah. That's our thoughts on Laugh in the Dark. Alan?
It's you know what? It's kind of like Crush's Coaster at Disneyland Paris, where it's grossly the wrong ride for that park in terms of like what it needs to do for throughput.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fun, but it's not so great that you feel like you need to ride it again. It's essentially identical in a lot of ways to Crush's Coaster. Like the layout of the actual ride is pretty much exactly the same. The difference is the pre-lift portion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's we had like queue, whatever their fast pass system is there that you pay for. And it's like you don't actually get like a front of the line for Laugh Track. You just get to like cut half the queue.
Yeah.
We still waited half an hour when we were there for it.
So maybe that's not the issue with that queue is not fire hazard, but it may be just that queue reservation system thing.
It's not like the best queue, and I don't know. I'd rather have a real fun house than have what they have.
Yeah.
But everything that they build is usually kind of weird, and you're always like, why'd they do that? That's like a common Hershey thing.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah. So we all
Reese's Cup Challenge.
Yeah. So we did Reese's Cup Challenge, which I destroyed at, by the way. Do not.
Thank God there was no line for that thing, because I would not have waited more than 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, we walked onto that, but the problem was they don't hand out free candy anymore, which sucks. Excuse me.
Everything. By the way, I just want to mention everything on Reese's Extreme Cup Challenge reminds me of Sports Illustrated for kids.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All the art of like the kids like on skateboards looks exactly the same.
Pretty much. There was so we did that. We did Wildcat out there. Was it Wildcat, Jeff? Or what is out there?
Wildcat, yeah.
Wildcat was that was a trip.
That was, I mean, I didn't remember that ride is literally all turns. Like literally the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We did the Wild Mouse out there, which was good. It was fine. Great
the
Bear.
Wild Mouse had a cult following at one time, actually.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, it's just Goofy's Sky School, basically.
It has a really fast lift hill, though. For what
That's
it
true.
is.
We saw their new water park. It looks cool. If I would have brought my bathing suit and done that, it looks nice. We saw the old saw the old load station for Roller Soaker, which was classic.
We actually took the time to walk up to the old load station to see what was left of it.
I'm getting to the good stuff at the end. We did the monorail ride, which was classic. I love that monorail ride.
It was surprisingly long. I remember, I guess they were running multiple trains, because I didn't remember the trains coming that long in the load station. But then when it left, I mean, it went outside the park. It went through the zoo. It went over like the log flume ride. I mean, it was pretty fantastic. Like that was a solid monorail ride.
Yeah. So they were running 2 trains on that, I think. But yeah, good ride. We did the Kiss Tower, of course, because you have to.
Woo!
Yeah. We did Great Bear, which exists. It's a ride.
Yeah, man.
Better than I remember. Better than I remember it being. Yeah, Great Bear.
It's just so slow. Like there's too many like straight portions where nothing's happening. You're just sort of gliding along. It's like this is not what B&M inverted coasters were made for.
Yeah. So then we also did Comet, right? That's the one there?
Yeah, Comet and Super Duper Looper.
Yeah, so Super Duper Looper, I forgot how good Super Duper Looper is.
It's so good.
It's really good. It's really good. Like, that loop is really good. It's like super, almost duper. It's really good.
It has a good layout. Like everything about it is good. It's so good.
It's really good.
Makes me happy.
That is a legit loop. Like that's no bullshit. That's a loop, and that was great. And then we did
probably the only thing I would change is I mean I don't really like that the loop is the very first thing after the hill. Like you go through the hill and then the loop, and then you have like a 2.5-minute ride after that. Like it's a little unbalanced in terms of excitement.
But they kind of get rid of the bullshit right up front. They're like, we know what you're here for, so here you go. But yeah, no, I would love it. It's Super Duper Looper. You bought the T-shirt. You survived Super Duper Looper.
I bought the I Survived Super Duper Looper T-shirt, and I'm going to be wearing it at school this fall. So awesome.
So then we rode Comet, which I think is one of the best wooden roller coasters, old school wooden roller coasters around.
Comet was surprisingly good. I don't remember it being just so perfect on the airtime on the bunny hills on that ride.
Yeah, I think we rode we were riding 5th row or something like that on that.
So.
I think we rode 5th. So that was and we rode it like when it was warmed up and good to go and it was pretty sunny out. So yeah, that was just solid. That was really, really good. So next up, we'll talk about Storm Runner, one train operations, sponsored by pork, I guess. There was a bunch of pork signs in the queue line. They're sponsored by
a lot of pigs in that queue line. Don't know
why. I love Storm Runner, but man, if there's a way to kill my appreciation for that ride, it's just like running one train at a time and basically getting 600 people an hour through that thing. Like you guys have so much capacity to work with, and they're like, fuck it, or we can't do it.
And they have a double load station.
Yeah, and they're not using it at all. It's just terrible. It was just absolutely unforgivable operations on Storm Runner. It was just incomprehensibly bad. That was like out of the parks I've been to this year, that's been the most mind-bogglingly bad operations I've ever seen is Storm Runner.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
It's just and like
it's Intamin.
It's an Intamin ride, but I love Storm Runner, and like also as Jeff said, like they changed that that audio they play right before launch, right, Jeff?
Yes, they changed it slightly.
Yeah.
But it's still the same kind of thing, so I'm not too upset about it.
Yeah. Instead of it being like, arms down, head back, here we go, it's like, hold on, here we go, or something like that. I forget what it was, but yeah.
Yeah.
Still a great ride. Still amazing.
The new restraints on it are so good.
It is.
Like those soft restraints.
Fantastic.
Oh my god.
So the soft restraints are weird because I feel like they're way too small, so everyone's face rubs against it, which is weird. Like, maybe I just have a large face, but, like, I feel like it's just, like, a little hair too small as opposed to, like, Maverick or Fahrenheit. But that's just me. But then we have to talk about definitely one of the highlights of the trip. Still one of the greatest rides there. We have to talk about Lightning Racer.
Lightning Racer.
Super fun.
Absolutely.
We walked onto that 4 times.
Well, yeah, when they're running 2 trains and 2 sides, I mean that's a 4-train operation. So that thing can motor through capacity.
Damn, that's good. Holy shit, that's a good ride. Man, that's good.
Yeah, I honestly still think Lightning Racer is my favorite ride at Hershey. It's just so damn good, and the racing element, and like remember when it opened, when it was such a big deal that it was racing and dueling at the same time? Like that was such a badass ride.
Yeah, that's really good. So Lightning Racer, really great. So after we did 4 rounds on Lightning Racer, we headed out to Trogues Brewery. Has a brewery like about 2 minutes from the parking lot of Hershey.
It's
so we
wonderfully located.
Yeah. So we went there. It was so packed. It was not even funny. We waited like a shit ton of wait. God, it was like a half hour to get food or something. But we got the
at least a half hour.
Yeah,
we had to take shifts to wait in line for food.
Yeah, we had to do that. Just so we didn't lose our spot. So the beer was decent. I think it was pretty good. The food was amazing. Oh my god.
The food was ridiculous.
Yeah, so Jeff's like, we're gonna get these 3 things. We get the 3 things, and we're like, we can't finish these 3 things. And Jeff has his metabolism, which is definitely 2 or 3 times higher than mine. So I'm still pulling my weight, but we're full. So like this one lady sitting next to us talking to us, and we're like, just take our poutine. So we got the spent grain pretzel. We got it was like the mac and cheese, but it was a patty of mac and cheese that was basically noodles that were like pressed together and then battered and then fried with pulled pork on top with then a beer cheese sauce on top of it all. And then we had poutine.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous.
And the poutine could serve the whole fucking the Potomac, like regimen. Like it was enough food that we're just dying, so we're having to give off all this food. It was a great place. So if you guys ever need a place to go to eat, go to Trogs. It's amazing. They had a
100% recommend that place.
Yeah, that they have a better parking operation there than Hershey does.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, seriously, they actually have like attendants in the parking lot for a restaurant.
Yeah, so that reminds
But Joe,
us.
why don't you?
Well, we forgot to talk about one thing.
We did forget to talk about one thing, but I was going to fold that into why don't you go into general thoughts of Hershey, and then I can go.
Okay, so general thoughts of Hershey are that I like the new water park a lot. Everything looks pretty good. I mean, it sucks to lose the roller soaker, but I mean, you could get 5 people through in an hour, so you didn't lose that much. The new water park looks great. The only problem I had was ops at Storm Runner. Everything else I think was running great. Everything was fun. We would have been on Fahrenheit maybe 1 or 2 more times, except it broke down when we walked by. It was just people sitting in the most awkward locations. So we're like, oh, never mind. So we didn't do that. Yeah, I really enjoyed Hershey. I really enjoyed our trip there. I had a great time. Definitely, I want to go back again soon. It was just super fun. And we haven't even talked about the chocolate tour yet. So, Jeff, do you want to talk about the chocolate tour?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going to fold that into my sort of general thoughts. So for me, Hershey, I always liked Hershey just because it was different. Like there's this sort of exoticism to Hershey. Like it's very obviously not Cedar Fair. It's very obviously not Six Flags. Like it's something different, which I always appreciated. The thing is though, is that the operations are very odd to the point of being like really standing out. And I'm not just talking about load times and, the ride attendants and things like that. I'm talking about like there are rides in the wrong places, like flat out the wrong places. Like I don't know if it's because they built the Great Bear around the log flume, but the log flume is in completely the wrong place. Like there's no visibility at all with the walkways or anything like that.
And then the log flume sign looks like it's not a log flume. And the name doesn't say it's a log flume.
Yeah, exactly. It was like coal miner or something like that, wasn't it? Or like, and there was no pictures of anyway. So I mean that's the thing is like I always got this sense like, do they really know what they're doing here? Because all these things and Laugh Track and Reese's Cup Challenge is just the last couple example It's just
and
like
Triple Tower.
They actually know what they're doing here,
yeah,
right?
Triple Tower, another one.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I always have fond memories of, the KISS tower, the observation tower at Hershey, and the Ferris, the logo, sort of the multicolor logo on the Ferris wheel, and all of the costumed candy characters that seem to greet you everywhere, and all the candy that you used to get.
The Jolly Rancher, the Jolly Rancher,
right?
With the
Jolly
headphones.
Rancher man, and the KISS, the little KISS lady or whatever. But for me, I think the problem is Hershey, for some reason, like someone is now in charge of Hershey that has corporatized it. Like it's very obvious that at some point in the last 10 years, someone realized that Hershey is a publicly traded company and not a private company. And they're like, oh, we should probably actually, make a good faith effort to make a profit instead of just building rides. So that's why you get all these like randomly crappy rides and why you're losing sort of value. Like, I assume that's the reason why they don't give candy out anymore at these rides is to save money. Or maybe there's a health concern about that. I don't know. But it seems like someone somewhere just, took control of the park and just said, yeah, no, we're going to start making a profit now. So now, there's the Hershey chocolate tour just seems very watered down to me from what it used to be. It used to be just a weird, like Epcot Center style of just world of motion sort of stupidity. But now it's just like a basic, just like chocolate tour. And now they have all these upsell attractions at the chocolate factory. And it just didn't seem as exotic anymore. It didn't seem as spontaneous. It seemed more corporatized. So that was sort of my takeaway, was that, with Reese's Challenge and with Laugh Track and things like that, it's like all these opportunities that were just a swing and a miss all the way through, that just seemed very odd to me. So even though I enjoyed the experience for sure, and I would like to go back, but I think it was disappointing to me that I think it's the overall grade for the park is lower than what it was last time I went.
Okay. So, chocolate tour.
Yeah, the chocolate tour. Yeah, so what are your thoughts, chocolate tour?
So they've changed the chocolate tour since we were there last. I think they changed it right before we went there last time, and they changed it right before we went there this time. They are on a 10-year cycle.
I'm not entirely sure they weren't like actually still renovating it, because weren't like all these queue lines like had all these construction walls up in random places.
I did some research on it. They're still working on it right now. So basically, but it's mostly done. But the thing is, they're still swapping out the ride vehicles. So right now they're switching out the ride vehicles from the early Aero design or whatever they had for the Omnimover. The original versions of those ride vehicles are switching out for new ones, and the new ones have a different ride profile, kind of dimensions, so they didn't incorporate all the on-ride photos they could normally, if that makes sense. So we rode the old school ride vehicles, which made me so happy. So we waited about maybe 30 minutes for this attraction, which was crazy because we also boarded in a totally different area where we thought we were going to. So that was weird. So we waited a long time to get on the ride. It's the same ride, basically, except now the chocolate hosts it instead of the singing cows, which is slightly disappointing, but whatever. They have some interesting points where they have flat screen TVs with little bars hanging in front of it to mimic chocolate standing on a hanging walkway right behind, looking in front of you, but they're just using the glass as a Pepper's Ghost effect. So it's kind of really bizarre to see that stuff, but you kind of get what's going on. Still the same kind of thing, general things going on, but again, it's just an enjoyable ride. Period. Yeah, Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I still like it. I just like the older version better just because it was so weird. But now that now it's hosted by anthropomorphic chocolate and their assistant Angela, the PR representative, so it's a little it's just that's sort of my general comment on the park. It's just, it seems more corporatized. I couldn't believe, obviously working at Disney for so long, I'm completely unfazed by expensive things at theme parks. But I was sort of shocked that a lot of the items at Hersheypark are pretty expensive. And I didn't expect that for, a park in the middle of Nowheresville, Pennsylvania. And I can only assume again that they're just trying to, boost their margins and boost their profits, to try and make, get the Hershey shareholders to think that they're actually trying to make a profit on this park instead of throwing away money. But that's just, that was sort of the disappointing thing for me with Hershey, is just there's obviously a corporate element to this now that I didn't think existed before, because they gave away free candy. You know, there's all these costume characters. You know, some areas were themed, and it was, you know, they had the weird ass chocolate tour ride, you know, that sort of thing. But now it's just sort of it just obviously has been more corporatized, and that's sort of a bummer for me.
Okay, so since we're getting really late now, we're going to speed this up a little bit.
Yes,
and also, we're running at 2 hours and 20 minutes, so let's speed it up real quick. Say that we left Hershey, we drove a bit, we spent way too much money on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and
oh God,
yeah, so we ended up in the Moon, Pennsylvania, Sheraton, I think it was, on the executive VIP level, which was amazing, and I passed out in that bed real quick.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so next day, so we drove, and then the next day we got up, and we had some granola bars as we watched terrible HGTV programming in the VIP lounge, and had some coffee,
Yes.
and we then went to Kennywood.
Kennywood!
I got a great deal from Kennywood. Alan, FYI, the admission price for Kennywood with the European Coaster Club is $25.
Excellent.
So it's even better than last year's. It's like $20 off. Like I'm like what? So I'm like, excuse me? It's like what? So I'm like, yes. So I paid $25 to get in. I was so happy. So, real quick, Kennywood, we forgot, opens the attractions after they open the park. So we're walking around going, what the hell's open? So our first ride was Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark.
New
Noah's Ark.
New Noah's Ark.
New Noah's Ark.
So that was our first time on that. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
They still have the shaker boards. I'm so happy. Like, I'm so happy that Kennywood has as many old rides. Like, they kept as many old rides as they could. And just Noah's Ark is just the cream of the crop there. Like, to actually have a walk-through funhouse in this, you know, litigation age just makes me so happy.
I like the new effects. I think everything was cool. It didn't have a good ending. That's the only complaint I have, but
Yeah, I was disappointed by the ending. I mean, they tried, because they tried to have the what do you call it, the barrel tunnel at the end, but it didn't gel. It didn't seem like an ending.
Yeah, but otherwise, I liked it. I liked all the changes. I think everything was super A+ done.
I mean, they have. I'm so happy that they still have so many of the old school Noah's Ark effects, like from like 1910 or whatever. Like, they still have the rocking boat at the top. They still have, like, you actually walk through the tunnel outside and go into the rocking boat. They still have the old school, like, Macy's mannequin window Noah figure on the top.
Noah still looks like he has jaundice.
Yes, he looks like he hasn't shaved since 1935. And, you know, they still have the waterfalls inside with the crocodiles. They still have the shaker boards.
I was
just so happy.
I think they updated or added those.
They did update them, but they used to have, at least back in the early 90s when I remember it, they used to have a sort of water effect where you actually got to walk on barrels over a tiny little river, and they actually had like a waterfall with some mannequin crocodiles.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
That scene really harkened back to that sort of point in Noah's Ark.
Yeah, so
and that made me so happy.
So after that, what coaster did we do again?
Thunderbolt.
Yeah, Thunderbolt. We did that twice. Still Thunderbolt. Still weird.
Thunderbolt has such a good start, man. Like, out of the station, immediate drop. Like, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it's still Thunderbolt. Still really good.
That Kennywood and Holiday World really have the market cornered on terrain coasters, because I mean the best part about terrain coasters is that they don't follow any sort of logic. It's just sort of, okay, hill, okay, hill. Okay, find another hill, okay, here's another hill, you know, that sort of thing. And now it goes on top of the ravine, does a little turn, and then you go down the ravine again. I mean, that's so fantastic.
Yeah, so that was Good times. We did Phantom's Revenge twice. That was a good time. I forget how weird those restraints are for Phantom's Revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, those little side restraints.
Yeah, they remind me of the... yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, good ride. Good times. God, what else did we do? I mean...
Jackrabbit.
We had to do Exterminator before anyone actually got to the back of the park.
Yeah, fuck that ride. I was like, well, we should do it before anyone gets there. And then, like, we still waited, like, 20 minutes because that ride, like, has, like, 5 people an hour go through it. It's like, God, I hate Exterminator. And then you get inside and it just feels like a dust bowl. And it's like, oh, God. It's all bad. It's all bad. I shouldn't... I keep thinking, I'm like, maybe they did something to it. Nope, they didn't do anything to it. You're just hopeful, Joe.
No, they just turned effects off is what they did.
Yeah.
But no, the Exterminator, like, for some reason, it always throws me that I always think that you're supposed to be the exterminators, but instead you're actually supposed to be the mice, and you don't get that until the middle of the ride for some reason.
I still don't get it. I didn't realize it until you mentioned it.
The car is shaped
now.
like a mouse.
Yeah, but I didn't get it.
That's the hint.
Yeah, but I'm dumb.
But anyway, so yeah, and then we went on all the classic flat rides that they have there.
The whip and the nay-nay.
Jackrabbit, turtle, all that good stuff, right?
Turtle.
Or not jackrabbit, kangaroo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah, the kangaroo. Oh, man, that kangaroo. Jeff, the kangaroo.
The kangaroo. Oh, so Joe, go ahead with your general thoughts of Kennywood.
So my general thoughts on Kennywood are, I'm still, like, again, we went there overcast, semi-cold, shouldn't have been as, like, empty as it was. Rides were opening and closing at random, it seemed like. We got on the S&S swing they have there, and then it immediately closed afterwards for weather for some odd reason, and it never rained. We went on the Black Widow Zamperla kind of rotary swinger thing, almost like the Huss.
Like the giant frisbee.
Yeah, like the giant frisbee. But what was cool about that was it changes how it rotates. So it goes clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, and it kind of messes with you, unlike the Huss ones. And it goes way longer, like way longer. So that was super fun. Overall, I really enjoyed the park. My only issue was, so Jeff and I tried to get beers there, which I was like, man, I need a drink right now. And then we find one place that has beers. They were opening it at like 1 p.m. It was this temporary, like, it's like when you go to a carnival and like some guy has a pickup truck that has a bunch of Bud Light in it. And they have like that trailer hitch with like 3 taps on it, and it's like a cooler. That's basically all their beer station is. So we go inside. We get this pulled pork, which is amazing. That was really good pulled pork, Jeff.
Yeah, it was.
This barbecue, and it was like overlooking the Sky Coaster. So we get in there, and basically we're treated like we have like we're getting a speeding ticket. So we have to turn over ID, which is scanned. This is the second time in my 30 years on this earth that my ID has been scanned for alcohol. This is the first time my ID has been scanned outside of a college setting for alcohol. He scans it. He goes, okay. He gives me a wristband. The wristband, then they clip, like they have like a little star thingy. They clip it every time you have a beer, and you're only allowed 2 beers the whole day at Kennywood. And this isn't like some sort of like, oh my goodness, you're having like this crazy like 8, 9, 10% alcohol. No, you're having Yingling. You're having Shinerbach. You're having, Summer Shanty or something like that. So we had 1 Yingling, and then we left and we did a bunch of rides, and we came back, and the place was closed. So we're like, fuck. So, yeah, it was really bizarre, but otherwise we had a great time. We did Jackrabbit, which is amazing. We did the Racer, both of those twice. We did, man. What was the parachute one we did again, Jeff? What was the name of that?
I don't remember actually. I just remember it as the parachute ride.
Yeah, the parachute ride. We did the kangaroo, which is amazing. Um,
Bayern Curve.
yeah, the Byron Curve. We did their version. We did their Music Express. We did Skyrocket like 4 times. No waits. Walked right in the station every time. Damn,
It's a good ride.
That's a great ride. That's a really good ride. Like, imagine if like, man, that's a really good ride. Like, yeah, it's really good. Yeah, we walked into that 4 times. Great times. Yeah, we just kind of walked around the park, saw things, had a good time. Yeah, I don't know.
What about was it Ghostwood?
Oh,
Ghostwood Estates.
Ghostwood Estates. Actually, I'll let Jeff. Do you want to talk about that? Because I've talked about it for a while, so I think you know my thoughts too that you can touch on.
Ghostwood Shire McManor Winchester
Yeah,
Manor.
exactly. Yes.
So I mean, so I like the sort of the Boo Hill sort of Ghostwood Manor aesthetic where you actually like can set off effects when you shoot things. But Ghostwood Manor was sort of slow for me. I mean, the one great part about that is the turntable where you literally go into a room where there's no track, and then you turn around and you come out the other side like Maelstrom. I mean, that was mind blowing when I rode that the first time.
Mm-hmm. The problem though was that the last 2 doors were open the whole time. So they didn't have the blackout doors at all.
Yeah, so for the couple rooms, there was just like daylight streaming into the rooms, and it's like, well, this isn't scary.
So that sucked, and their capacity was shit. Like they weren't running anywhere near capacity on that ride. Like they were like
yeah, for some reason, I don't know why.
Weird dispatch, and our guns weren't working the second time. It was not good. But yeah, like
Yeah.
Otherwise, I liked that ride. It was just those issues that just. Hey, clean that up. You have a good ride.
Yeah, the part where it does like a K-turn or whatever to like get around is so cool. And it has a pre-show aspect, which is interesting. And I think my wife's gun didn't work the last time I was there, so probably similar kind of experience where like slightly underwhelming, but still interesting.
So Jeff and I found a logic loop here. Loophole is basically you're shooting ghosts for this guy to get him out of his house. Right? And then his reward for the highest person to score is an invitation to stay at his house. So, when you're dead as a ghost. So, would that mean you're just showing up again?
Do you want us out or not?
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, you're sending us some mixed signals here, bro. I don't know what you want. Anyway, Jeff, what are your other thoughts of Kennywood?
Yeah, so with Kennywood, I'm just so happy to be at a park that doesn't like it's such an old school time where like they didn't really care about like lawsuits or anything, so that they could like literally like crank up the rides as fast as humanly possible, or they can put you on something that doesn't really have a lap bar. Like you can tell like they were dragged into like putting a lap bar on these rides, like kicking and screaming. So I mean, those rides are so fun because like you're so used to these just generic flat rides that just sort of turn you around and okay, I'm going in a circle. Isn't this fun? But the Kennywood rides, like they crank those things up to 11. Like Kangaroo and Bayern Curve, like you're literally like plastered against the seat. Those things go so fast. And I mean, their Music Express is the fastest. I think it's the fastest Music Express I've been on. I mean, I don't really go to a lot of the smaller parks. But their Music Express is far, far faster than any other Music Express I've been on. And of course, it has one of my favorite all-time rides, which is the Whip, which is just absolutely fantastic. That they used to have a kids version of the Whip at Kings Island back when they had Hanna-Barbera Land, and they used to call it Crack the Whip. And my brother and I used to ride that ride incessantly, just over and over again. We loved it so much. So since Kennywood has an adult version of the Whip, just brings warm fuzzies to my heart. And I just love being in the Kennywood atmosphere where it's just a grove, just in the middle of like ghetto town. There's just like a paradisical grove that Kennywood's in, and it has waterways, and it has the old school train ride, and it has the kangaroo and the Starburst fountain, the old school Starburst fountain, and it has Noah's Ark. And just like these fantastic, and like every single food stand they have there, just it seems like it's from like a carnival where it's like they have like the old school the taco stands and the fries and the corn dogs and the cotton candy and all that stuff, and that just makes me happy. I love that sort of Kennywood atmosphere. But Joe, before we go, I do have one more thing that I'd like to talk about.
Well, there's one thing I want to say real quick. So we head back to Ohio, and we stop at, I think it was called the Pig Iron. Yeah, Pig Iron. It was a restaurant north of Pittsburgh, and that was pretty solid. They had about 90 beers on tap. Remember that?
Yeah,
John?
that was pretty solid.
That was like
absolutely.
really good beers on tap. They had really good food, and no one was there, and we watched sports. Like, we watched the Pirates game, and just had a blast there. That was a good time. That was like great time.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Next time I'm back in Pittsburgh or I move to Pittsburgh, I'm going there again. Like, I really like that place. Like, I really like that place. So before we leave, Jeff, you have one last park to talk about.
I have one last park to talk about. So,
Alan,
when was the last time?
I want to run and get a glass of water, so I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead.
You guys talk. So yeah.
Alan, when was the last time you were at Carrowinds?
2012. No.
Okay. So
yeah, maybe 2014. Like, it was an even year. That much I remember.
So fairly recently. So did you go back when it was during its Paramount days?
No. I've only been once. I just never got down that way. I finally got down that way, like I said, like 2012 maybe is when I was the first time I was down there, and I did like that in Dollywood. I went to Six Flags Over Georgia a couple years before that too. Like, I just flew down to Atlanta for a weekend. But yeah, that was a place that kind of eluded me for a while.
Yeah, it's in one of those sort of nowheresvilles. Just like there's like nothing like in between like Six Flags and like Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Like, that's the only park in between there,
Yeah, it's basically like Six Flags Over Georgia, Carrowinds, and then like King's Dominion. Like, if you were doing that, but that was always like, that was never like a reasonable driving trip for me. So it was just, it never quite happened. And so, whatever.
Yeah.
But I got there. It was a decent park.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm asking if you went there during the Paramount days is it very much seems like an afterthought in the Paramount sort of park system. So I was just wondering, like, is that because it was an afterthought, or is it because like Cedar Fair ruined it? Because it could be either one. I was just curious.
Well, you have to remember it was Carrowinds before it was Paramount. And I think my guess is that it was probably like a bastard child in the Paramount system, because it was just like they dumped. Was it Cedar Fair? No, Cedar Fair dumped Project Stealth on them. What's now Nighthawk.
Yeah.
I think so.
But Paramount
wait,
reduced and eliminated
it was
all
Paramount.
the
No, it was Paramount, because remember they originally themed it to the Borg, like Star Trek.
Oh, you're right. It was Borg Assimilator. You're right. You're totally right. Yeah, no, that's I think it's more or less kind of like Paramount really didn't know what to do with it, and they kind of eliminated all the really nice, charming aspects about the park that I've read about in the past. Though it never really had a dark ride until
they're just so used to running a King's style park and not Carrowinds style park.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So anyway, before I start, I definitely want to say that I am so happy for this summer, because I have Carrowinds, King's Dominion, Busch Gardens, and Dollywood all within a 4-hour drive, and all of those things are happening, and I am so happy. So get ready, Twitter, for for my incessant photo essays. But yeah, and Carrowinds is only a 90-minute drive from me, so I'm going to be going there on just random summer nights, just so I can ride Fury 325 just incessantly, because that ride is so damn good. But overall, like Carrowinds, it does feel very much like an afterthought, having been to both. Well, actually, I've been to Kings Island, Kings Dominion, and Canada's Wonderland. I haven't made it out to Great America in California, but Carrowinds does very much seem like an afterthought in that sort of park chain. I mean, to be honest, I had not been to Carrowinds before. It very much seems like a concrete jungle. I mean, I couldn't really tell it apart from Six Flags New Jersey. I mean, it's very, very similar. From the parking lot, from the front gate, just all the way through. It was just, sort of that same sort of Cedar Fair, sort of Six Flags atmosphere. So that part was a little disappointing. But in terms of the rides, one more thing. So the new, quote unquote, new sort of experience that Carrowinds has is they have a new area right next to the water park that they have called State Fair or maybe County Fair. But all it is just recycled flat rides. And they're not even good flat rides. They're just like, it's like, the swings and the Troika and the Music Express. And that's it. And they're touting it as a new area that everyone's going to love.
But there's a top scan.
I mean, it's kind of, yes, there was that thing, which I am not going anywhere near that thing because it looked terrifying.
Oh, top scan.
That is totally so not good. My thing.
So good. Oh my God.
I will not be doing that. Oh, go ahead.
I had a great top scan ride in Germany years ago, like at some fair on the Rhine, and it was like 5.5 minutes long because that's what happens in Germany. And oh God, it's so good. It's so it's I would say it's the best ride system that has ever pitched someone into a parking lot by far. So good. It did, by the way. There was the one at Long Island Adventureland threw someone over the backdrop and on top of a car. That's an actual true statement. I did not make that up.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I would totally believe that, but I'm the kind of person who had nightmares of riding the Zipper when I was 10 years old, so I don't go near those kind of things. Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
You need to hang out with me so that we can go ride that because that's
no.
Yeah.
No.
You go on the end of the boom. Absolutely. Very end seat on the far. Oh my God. So good. So good.
So general thoughts about the Carrowinds rides. First of all, their ops was very skeleton. Like so they had Fastlane for pretty much all the rides at the park, but they only had a merge employee for like the top 3 rides. So every other ride did not have a merge point. They just had a fast lane, but they still had the fast lane line open for the other rides. So like anyone could just hop in the fast lane and just wander into the regular queue just on a whim. So that was kind of disappointing that they did that. That was a little weird. They had a very surprisingly good mine train ride called Gold Rusher, which was one of the sort of original rides they had back in the early 70s. But that ride packed a punch, man. And it carried one of the Carrowinds themes, which was Carrowinds, for some reason, really likes underground tunnels on their rides. So Gold Rusher, Afterburn, which is their sort of Batman the Ride takeoff, and Fury 325 all had like legitimate underground tunnels, which was kind of awesome. I'll get like it had underground tunnels, like Joe. It had underground tunnels like Montu style. It was pretty legit.
Like what style?
Gold Rush, Montu style.
Oh, okay.
You know those like underground trenches that Montu has.
Mm-hmm.
Like Afterburn had like legit like underground tunnels in that sort of style. So that was sort of cool. But packed a pretty good punch. They had Vortex, which was an old school B&M stand up in the early days of B&M stand ups. So it was sort of the stand up equivalent of Batman, everything you could hope for in a B&M stand up. So my crotch will be hating me for the next year or two. What else? So they had the Carolina Cyclone, which was an old school. It was a double loop, double corkscrew, old school aero coaster. But for some reason, each section of the ride was painted a different color. So like the lift hill was blue, but the loops were yellow and the corkscrews were green. I don't know. I don't know why they did that, but it was so random. Maybe they're theming it like the cyclone threw 3 different roller coasters together, and that's why they're 3 different colors. Like, I don't know, but like it was like so weird. Obviously, which for some reason had like absolutely no theming whatsoever. Like, I remember, Joe, you remember Hurler at King's Dominion?
Oh, I remember Hurler, yeah.
And props, and like they had a Wayne's World video. Yeah, but this version had absolutely none of that. It just had like a large sort of warehouse style load, which had giant speakers, but nothing else. So I'm thinking maybe they had like maybe a pre-show there, or maybe like they played like Wayne's World music or something there, which they don't anymore. But that was sort of lame. But what else did they have? The pleasant surprises in the park. Afterburn was a pleasant surprise. I did not expect it to be that much better than like the Batman the Ride. But this was the old Top Gun inverted B&M, which was built, I want to say either 92 or 93. I want to say 93 probably.
No, it's newer than that. It's like 99 or 2000.
Afterburn? I thought it was the old Top Gun. There's
Top
93.
Gun at Great America, which is like basically around the same time of Batman. But this was after Montu. Like, this was a much more recent ride.
Okay. Well, expectations were not that high. Like, I expected it to be, but instead it was more like Montu, and that really sort of threw me. Like, do you remember Afterburn, Alan? Like, did you like it? Because it really packed a punch for me.
Yeah, no, it's a really good ride. I mean, the end's like not my favorite. It kind of peters out a little bit, but no, the Montu comparison, like it's very heavy. Like, it's basically like 90% of Montu. Like, it does a lot of the same stuff. It has a very similar kind of layout. It has the trenches. It's a really good ride. I mean, for a lot of people, that's like kind of the most underrated B&M hype or B&M inverted coaster.
Yeah. No, I was completely surprised that I haven't seen it on more lists. I mean, honestly, like legitimately, like beside, like if you want to talk about like 90s inverted roller coasters, Alpengeist, Montu Raptor, and Afterburn, like I would legitimately put that in the company of those 3.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one of the things is like when you get to the point where you've been on all the ones in the US, like a lot of those people have been on the international ones. So when they start talking about like B&M inverted coasters, like immediately their mind goes to Nemesis. And like all of a sudden, like once you get to like Nemesis and maybe like Black Mamba and whatever the one is that's at Park Asterix now, I can't remember its name. Like once you start like bringing those rides, then it starts to get like a little bit more complex and convoluted as to like what people love. Like, but that ride is a really good ride, and like you compare it to like anything that Vekoma built, like good lord, it's way better. I think it's better than the Batman rides too. It's a really good ride. It's
easily
solid.
better than the Batman.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So that was a huge plus in my book. I did not expect to be surprised at that one. Both Intimidator and Fury 325 are totally legit. I rode them both at night, and they're really good, both of them. To the point where I honestly think that Fury 325 was so damn good that like I think it legitimately holds the number 2 spot on my list right now, Joe. I think it might have displaced Maverick as number 2. I'm gonna have to go on Fury 325 a couple more times, but like the fact that and this was a couple weeks after I had ridden Skyrush, where I was so disappointed by the restraints. Like, the restraints at Fury 325, the pacing on that ride is just perfect, and the restraints don't hold you in like at all. So everything is just note perfect on that ride. The speed is perfect. The hills are perfect. I mean, it's fantastic. I was just wowed by how amazing that ride is. And Intimidator is not far behind. I mean, I don't know why they built 2 similar hypercoaster style rides like in the same area. But I mean, that's Cedar Fair for you. But I mean, both those rides are really legit. I rode Boo Hill for the first time, which I had been on the old Scooby-Doo models at King's Dominion and King's Island. But this was the first time I had been on Boo Hill. So so I was introduced to the Bucifer Twitter that Joe introduced me to the Bucifer Twitter feed. So I was tweeting with Bucifer like as I was going on the ride, like, and he was replying back to me. So that was a highlight of my day. So that was. And I do like, I mean, those rides are pretty janky, but I do like how they do have the element of when you shoot something, like effects actually happen. Like that adds a huge element to the ride. And like that really improves the ride experience for me. Because, I mean, when you ride these janky rides, like you know, Getaway and Reese's Cup Challenge, like they're so boring. But when you have like like when you actually shoot something, like actual effects go off, that adds a huge like another dimension to the ride, which I appreciate. And then so Joe, let's talk about the top surprise of Paramount of Carrowinds.
Yeah.
Which Joe can attest to this. I was going mental for this ride. So Alan, are you familiar with the H versus Z ride at Carrowinds?
Because there's like the Plants vs Zombies thing that they were doing. That's what you're talking about, the like the shoot 'em up thing in the theater.
Yeah, the human zombies attraction that they have there. Which when I was looking at that thing, so I saw it on the park map, and I'm like, that's going to be the crappiest ride in the world. And I wrote it after Boo Hill, so I'm like, oh, as bad as Boo Hill was, this is going to be even worse because it's the old SpongeBob James Bond theater setup that Kings Island and Kings Dominion used to have.
Right. So
I'm looking at it, and I legitimately did not want to go on it. But I'm like, you know what? For the sake of completeness, I haven't been to this park yet, so I'm going to go on it. And I saw if you look back on my Twitter feed, like the first picture I posted of that ride was the totally crappy CG pre-show that they had. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. But then I went into the theater, and I'm staring at it like, is this real? Like they were, so it was individual simulator seats with 3D glasses with actual shooters, like actual guns on the ride. And I'm like, what did I just get myself into? What? And there's a partition in the middle of the theater that separates two sides of the theater, and each side has a different screen. And I'm like, what the hell is this ride? So the ride starts, and it's legitimately like a full-fledged like Disney Quest experience where you actually like it's like Toy Story Mania meets Mighty Ducks Pinball Slam, where you're actually shooting at the action, and all 24 simulator pods are shooting at the same action, and it's ridiculous. And they have like a contest between the humans and zombies on who can collect more golden gnomes. And they actually have levels in the game where you have like the warm-up level, and then you have like level 1, level 2, then you have the boss level, and after each level they have a counter on how well each team is doing. They have a point counter, they have a trophy counter, they have a final boss counter. It is so ridiculous, and each side was getting so into it. Like it was legitimately like it was like I'm in a 16-person like Mario Kart experience. It was legitimately like the highlight of my day was how surprisingly good that ride was. So I would unapologetically add that ride onto Disney Quest or anywhere else, like any Cedar Fair park. I would say you have to add this ride because my God, it was fantastic. I had such a blast on that thing. It was such a great surprise. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is my take on Carrowinds.
Jesus Christ, we're at this for 3 hours now. Holy crap, we have to end this. So
we might have to split in two.
No, we're gonna release it all as one. I mean,
sure.
If these people have made it this far, bless you all. I mean, this is like in all fairness though, like I'm used to like 3-hour podcasts from like Giant Bomb during E3 week, which is next week, where they're just interviewing industry professionals every night for 3 hours. So. Yeah, we're at this. Yeah. we're at 2 hours and 53 minutes right now, without.
You know what? If you bring me back in a couple weeks, it's not going to be any better.
Yeah, I know, but we're still going to do that.
So Alan, I think we have to have another 3-person podcast at like near the end of the summer, so that you can talk about your experiences, and then I can talk about my trips to King's Dominion, Busch Gardens, and Dollywood. I think that would be awesome.
The only thing I would say against that, and the reason I would suggest that might not be a good idea, is because there's going to be a lot that I do, a lot. Like I already have so next week, so Saturday, as a matter of fact, I haven't packed at all. I still have laundry that I need to get done. I have to pack tomorrow, which is going to be today in 30 minutes, and then I fly Saturday afternoon, and I go to Barcelona. So I'm going to Portaventura, Ferrariland, Tibidabo, and then I fly to Stuttgart, Germany for a few days. I'm going to Legoland Deutschland, Skyline Park, and Tripsdrill. And that's just the next week. There's still Six Flags Great America, Santa's Village, Waldemere, Martin's Fantasy Island, Stricker's Grove, Kings Island, Cedar Point again, probably Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, probably Kings Dominion, possibly Dorney, probably Kennywood, Camden Park in West Virginia, Canada's Wonderland. Yeah, so maybe like 2 weeks from now. Otherwise, the Germany, like the Europe stuff, is going to be alone, like a huge show.
Yes. No, I definitely want to hear about those.
Yes. Holy shit.
That's just an average summer, man. This is just what we do.
Yeah, true.
If you're not doing 40 parks a year, what are you doing? That's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Okay, so Alan, where can we find you online at?
God's on Safari on Twitter.
There we go. Jeff, where can we find you online at?
I am at Parkscope Jeff on Twitter.
There we go.
Also Portaventura, as of the time this goes up next week. Holla at me.
Yeah,
definitely. Find me at Ferrariland. Let's go ride Red Force, guys.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Go on some intimate Terra coasters or whatever the hell that thing is. God. Yeah, you can find. I'm at Parkscope Joe. I'm probably doing stupid stuff on there. You know me, retweeting all the Simpsons stuff, because today the Simpsons quote of the day was all the Troy McClure quotes. So I'm like, yes, of course I'm retweeting. Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You remember me from such education films as Alice Through the Windshield Glass. So you follow me there. You can follow all of us at Parkscope. I put up a new article about Nintendo today. Alan puts up articles about hidden amusements in all the 50 states. Jeff does the 30 best attractions ever built?
So I'm currently taking a sort of delayed break on Wish Upon a Blue Sky, because there will be there will be new developments at Parkscope coming this summer, which we will detail in a week or two.
Yeah, there we go. So we'll know more on that. But also, he writes those. If you haven't read them, go read them. Good times. Go leave us a review on iTunes saying, this is a 3-hour podcast. I lost my mind. I am now institutionalized. I now need to fly out to Spain and Germany and Japan, and I need to ride roller coasters. Can I go find some, I don't know, wacky worms in the middle of South America? All of a sudden, I have this crazy feeling. So yeah,
still cheaper than cocaine. This hobby.
That's true. Cheaper than cocaine and Disney World. So remember that, everyone. So I'm gonna just say good night, everyone. Good night. Yeah, I need to sleep. I'm just like, my bed's right behind me. I'm on my table, so I'm just gonna like get a glass of water, just like basically like roll over into my bed and just pass out until I have to get up at like 7 a.m. tomorrow. So, good night, everyone.
That is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. Kungaloosh. Love everybody. Hate everything. We'll see you guys later.
Good night, all.
Yeah.